Go ahead.
All right. So the first thing we're gonna do you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the next thing I'm gonna call this meeting to order. First order of business is meeting minutes from March 3rd and April 7th. Everybody been through those?
And I will just say, I didn't realize until today that the second set of meeting minutes weren't up there. So I put them in there, but I imagine you haven't looked at them in the last hour. So if you want to table those to the next meeting, I think
Let's
that's
table them for the next meeting.
reasonable.
Fine. So we're going back to old business.
If you want to act on the March 3rd meetings, those were in there. It was
Okay.
just the 7th one. So I read them.
I'll make a motion. We accept the March 3rd minutes as presented.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, good. Scratch March 3rd. Old business, application for subdivision review by Sightlines on Fox Hollow Estates on Standpipe Road.
And we do have a public hearing for this.
Is that
Do
on?
the public hearing first?
Up to
No,
you.
no. It's actually listed as last, but we can go. for
Yeah, that's however you.
No, where is it? It's not even on here, is it?
Yeah, it's under the old business.
Old business.
Oh, old business. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we can hold a public hearing on that first. So we'll start a public hearing. Anybody in the audience would like to speak on that
Or ask questions.
or ask questions?
So maybe we should have,
If you're gonna speak, you need to come down here. State your name, although I know who you are.
Should we have them real quickly, just give a quick overview of it?
That's actually what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask.
Okay.
It's just for a little, yeah, some context and some more information. I think that'd be really helpful for what we might want to say and how relevant our comments might be.
Okay.
Does anybody have anything to say other than that? We'll give you a chance to talk. Definitely. I'd say that we can close this public hearing.
No. They were asking for just a little
A
overview.
little, do you wanna go through you wanna go little, or you wanna go through the whole thing?
How about we go through the whole thing and then I
And
think
have
do
public hearing at the
after
end?
me.
That's the way I thought you would read that.
Okay.
Okay.
So, anyway, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Good evening, Kevin Clark from Sightlines, and here representing Alex Levis and Benjamin Bentry on this project we're calling Fox Hollow Estates. It's on the Standpipe Road. Well. For our project team, we've got Sightlines, we're surveyors and engineers on staff.
Steve, just a little bit, but I don't think that these guys can see it.
to make it flat?
I flatten it out so she can see it. Yeah,
Thank you,
please.
Justin. I appreciate that.
There we go. You got to see?
Yeah, if you want to come over here. Thank you.
I've got everything.
We have Basswood Environmental who did our wetlands, Peter McCready who did the soils, and Mark Sensi did a hydrogeologic report for us on the nitrate study for the septic systems. The project is on 24.4 acres. It's in the rural zoning district, and the minimum lot size is 80,000 square feet and 200 feet of frontage. There's a resource protection overlay at the rear of the property, which is 250-foot buffer from the inland wading bird and waterfowl habitat. We're proposing, because of the size of the project or the size of the property and the characteristics of the property, traditional subdivision with 8 residential lots. Each lot will have 200 feet of frontage at a minimum and 80,000 square feet at a minimum. The total impervious area for the projects is just over or just under 25,000 square feet and is 1,800 square feet of wetland impact. And I can show that on the plan as go a little further. We've submitted a draft homeowners association for additional review. We've received our review of the stormwater management erosion control from it was reviewed for Knox and Lincoln Soil and Water Conservation District by Cumberland County Soil and Water Conservation District, and that has been approved. Got a no impact letter from the Maine Historic Preservation Commission. We got communications back from IF&W that they did not anticipate this project to impact any of endangered bats. Also, they just informed us of the 250-foot buffer around the waterfowl habitat, which we already had that mapped. Natural Areas Program had no documented species in the area. DEP, we had to apply for a stormwater water permit by rule, and that is pending. Army Corps of Engineers, you have to apply for a permit for the 1,800 square feet of wetland impact, and that's pending. It falls under the main general permit, and we file a self-verification form. If they find no problems with that, then no other action is necessary. The only requirement for that was no cutting during the bat pup season, which runs from June through July, which that's really not a problem right now. We don't have our approvals yet, so we can meet that timeline. We submitted to Great Salt Bay Water District, and they provided their ability to serve.
For drinking water, not sewer, correct?
Correct, just for drinking water. Yeah, they didn't want to run sewer out there. We have submitted the road name of Fox Hollow Lane to the E911 system, and that's been accepted, and it's online now with the state as a road name. And we submitted plan to the fire department, but didn't hear a response on the hydrant location, so.
Okay.
But I'm sure if they've got, before we start construction, they can always comment again if they want to. What we're proposing is 1,000-foot road with 18-foot gravel surface. The maximum slope is 9%, where the ordinance allows 10% for a private road. We're extending the public water and a new hydrant in the project to be confirmed with the fire department. Providing underground electric and communications along the roadway that'll serve each lot, and all the driveways will be off Fox Hollow Lane. No new driveways other than the proposed road off from Standpipe Road. Each lot will have a private septic system, and we've done a hydrogeologic assessment and no offsite impacts from those. Our stormwater management erosion control, like I said, has been reviewed and approved. And we also, and I think this is a condition of approval now, coordinate with the select board prior to road construction for a performance guarantee. Most likely performance bond.
Right. No, we can work out the details with the select board.
We asked for 3 waivers originally, and I think the board determined that street trees was not necessarily.
Well, we haven't discussed, I don't think we discussed it the
I
last
think,
meeting.
well, I thought they did
Yeah,
at
we
the
did.
last meeting, the street trees.
The street tree, yeah, but either.
And then also we asked for a waiver for the landscaping plan, because each lot will be landscaped by the new owners, but also the intent of the subdivision is to maintain as much tree cover as possible. That's really the desire of the project.
Can
is-
we ask questions now or?
Sure.
Okay, I mean, in the stormwater management plan, I think you mentioned retaining existing vegetation as much as possible. Is that going to be in the homeowners, in the agreement?
I don't know if that was in the agreement or not, but it would still have to be abide by that. We could add that to the,
I mean, just having like a general intent It's kind of toothless.
Mhm.
That was the agreement, sure.
Yeah, well, because I don't think that,
I mean, what's to prevent people from making big lawns, big open expanses, clearing, huge amount of trees?
there's anything in our ordinance that would.
Yeah, there's nothing ordinance wise to prevent that.
Yeah,
But that will really affect the whole stormwater management.
it may be a hole in our ordinance, but I'm.
Yeah.
Wetlands.
Yeah,
I think
well, I
that-
think the stormwater management plan assumed a certain amount of impervious area and cleared area for each lot.
Assume, yeah, because
Yeah.
nothing's proposed. to
Nothing,
be
we don't
built.
have a proposed exact amount, but
And
if we were,
mentioned that the septic, you mentioned septic, and there's no septic as part of this application. I assume you haven't submitted for septic.
no, not for individual systems that would
Yeah.
come later on. We've provided test pits on each lot
Yeah,
that demonstrate each lot has a site for septic.
I,
Usually those get shifted around
Mhm.
during
Yeah.
construction to meet the individual homeowners' requirements. If they want, say they want bathrooms in the basement level, then they have to do something either with pumps or put the system downhill so they can get gravity feed. Or, there are always intricacies
I
of
think
3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, to size the actual system.
Yeah, because there's no actual homes being proposed to, and I won't forget the trees, but like the specific, basically, we're saying like it looks like, I think you did what? There are test pits that show septic can be accommodated and the lots are large enough that septic can be accommodated. It may not be for the 12-bedroom house that someone wants to build, but
Right.
septic can be accommodated for something that is reasonable on the site. And that is kind of the same thing with impervious coverage or
Mhm.
tree cutting. I don't, specifically with tree cutting and impervious coverage, we don't really have any regulations in the ordinance that the town could say, you're not allowed to cut these trees here or there. We might want to think about that.
We have some performance standards that require not to increase the amount of stormwater off the lot, you know what I mean?
Right. And that, I think that there was the assumption here, and
Yeah.
I'm, maybe
No,
you explain
Yeah,
that.
no, and our stormwater management plan accounted for that, to treat a certain amount of impervious area on each lot in addition to the roadway. So all those items went into,
How much impervious,
I believe it was 6,000 or 7,000 square feet of impervious area for each lot.
For each lot.
Yes,
I'm trying to do.
I don't have it right in front of me, but it was in that vicinity. Because we've encountered other subdivisions since they were constructed where they actually limited it to 5,000. And as it turned out, most of the houses that were being built were, when you added the garage, they were pushing 5,000 in that particular neighborhood.
so that's impervious surface.
Yes.
So that also includes like a drive?
Yes, that would be the drive and the house. And
Okay, so that doesn't really include the changes in water flow with, clearing the lots and stuff.
Well,
I
does
just
that,
think This area is I think this area can accommodate development without a doubt, you know what I mean? And it's been designated by the town as a place that's suitable to have single family residences. I just am concerned that it's right next to a sensitive wetland system. And there's wetlands kind of all going through the
correct.
project area.
And that's why we have those 2 under drain stormwater features that collect runoff from the road and drives, excuse me. And they go to that filtration area before it's discharged
So
downstream.
are those ponds? Are
They're,
those-
they work as a pond when it first rains and then the water percolates through the soil and gets treated in that soil, and then there are drain pipes underneath. So it's got to go through the drainage material before it gets to the pipes, and then it goes then gets discharged. So that both treats it and controls the rate of the discharge. After a few days, after a rain event, the water, they'll be dry again.
So I thought we were kind of going away from those systems to more localized on-site rain gardens and stuff like that.
Well, I think that this, if I understand, I mean, none of this is taking water off-site. Right?
Correct.
Outside of the subdivision, so I guess
It's treating it all on site.
that's, yeah,
But it's a big area, it's a big. It's not lot by lot, treating lot by lot.
no, well, but I think probably because most of the runoff's gonna be from the road.
Yes, the
So-
road is the majority of the runoff, and that's usually what needs the most treatment as well, is the road areas.
Yeah,
Because you have the vehicles and you have any hydrocarbons from the vehicles.
I'm just trying to get a sense of what these systems look like. I mean, does it look like the area behind the Camden National Bank Plaza?
no, that's a retention pond, if I
Retention
understand.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be like that. This would be shallower, and it would have grass in the bottom.
Okay, and there wouldn't be a fence around it or anything?
No, it would only have, and it wouldn't have standing water all the time, just
Right.
during and soon after rain events. And then as it filters through, then the water is gone. So there could be quite a bit of time where it's actually dry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess right now, it rains and it might run down the hill into the wetlands, but generally is gonna be.
Yeah,
seeping
and that's
as-
part of what we have to do is control the amount. As part of the stormwater management plan, you have to calculate what the runoff was in its existing condition, and then what the runoff will be after it's developed, and model that so that you release that stormwater at the same rate as before.
So are they modeling it with like a certain percentage of vegetation removed?
Yes, certain amount of impervious area, certain amount of grass.
So I guess you mentioned was it 7,000 square feet of impervious per
Yeah.
lot? And then is there, in addition to that, there's a certain amount of like
Grass area, yes,
And I
and so it's calculated.
yeah.
That's all.
So well, I wasn't sure where that was. What's the amount per lot? Like they're assuming lawns of.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it anywhere.
You know what? Yeah.
The square. How, like, I'm just wondering, you have between 6,000 and 7,000 feet of impervious surface per lot calculation, and I just wonder how big, like, what's the amount of square foot of assumed
Lawn,
lawn? You know,
semi
because,
pervious, I guess it's probably.
Yeah, I don't have that number off the top of my head, and
well, but
I don't have,
it's not, it is not, you're right, it's not an impervious surface, but it handles stormwater very differently than a forest or a woods. Right now, this is a heavily vegetated area.
If you're aimed to limit people building houses out there to what they can clear. Is that your aim? Cause I mean, he's not in charge of what somebody might build.
Well, I guess I just want to be careful about the wetlands behind the development. I think that absolutely this area can accommodate development.
No, I do.
You know what I mean? But I just want to be careful about the wetlands.
Do you,
Yeah.
is in part of your presentation, do you have a map of the wetlands in there in the road? Okay, so
yep,
Let's look at
we
that.
can,
Okay.
I think that's where this is
Okay.
around the wetlands, is that
Yeah.
right?
Do you have a map of this water control?
yes,
You have that, Jen? You know.
I see these weird little.
Yeah.
There's little stormwater retention areas, but they're just down,
Like this.
see that right here.
Yeah, I'll have that.
yeah, there would be two on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
One probably 2/3 of the way, and then one down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in our packet, C5.
Yes. So the water in the ditches is going to be collected and diverted into these underdrained areas,
Some more.
and then released after it's
That's
filtered.
a lot of forest down through there.
Well, there's 2 lots here.
Well, and so I think if you, when we there's not a lot of area that they can build on.
Yeah,
In
on
there.
those, on those lots, they're quite limited. There's a 250-foot buffer
Okay,
Yeah.
from the edge of that wetland. So the buildable area is just in here and here on those two lots.
okay.
Yeah.
Even though they're larger, it's
And
it's a
that's,
much smaller.
yeah, and that is within that buffer there is regulated by shoreline zoning. So if someone does come and say, I want to build a house here, or I want to build a patio here.
Yeah, and it's actually resource protection, so that
Yeah.
they can't do construction with the resource protection.
It's
So,
not.
so this is all like just a forested wetland in here? Is that right?
Yeah, I think that,
Well, that's all,
is it forested or?
that wetland is, yeah, I believe that's what they would call a freshwater wetland by ordinances, which is more or less open water with reeds. That's why it's the bird habitat.
Ah, yeah.
But the boundary line is that wetland edge, so there really aren't, then it turns to forested land at the property line and up the hill.
So the riparian area is forested in there.
Yes,
Um,
and there's no construction permitted in that 250-foot buffer.
and I think even beyond shoreland, what was the private conservation easement or?
Yeah, we did another set aside 2.4 acres of that area along there as a conservation easement as well.
So is it the area within the 250-foot buffer,
Yes,
basically?
yeah,
Okay,
140 feet of it, right?
140 feet of it are conservation easement. The first 140 feet are a conservation easement as well.
So really, even if whoever buys that piece of property came to the town and said, I want to build something privately, they're not allowed to. And then when they come to the town, we'd be like, that's within the resource protection. So there's even more public restrictions.
so who holds the conservation easement?
That's one thing we were going to grant it to. The homeowners association would hold it. And I don't know if your ordinance requires an enforcement party or not.
Thing like that? Before, have you?
What, having the,
A homeowners association hold a conservation easement?
yeah, I mean, we can handle it in any number of ways. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like you'd be open if you want to
Yeah, if
have someone else.
yeah, oftentimes we convey it to a land trust, essentially convey the enforcement rights to a land trust or the town. Or
Yeah. And we can
on
also,
larger DEP projects, you actually convey an enforcement easement to DEP, but this one wouldn't really qualify for that.
well, I think we could also make it a condition of the approval that remain conservation. So that way, even if we say, give it to a trust, even if they say, no, we don't want to deal with it. And the homeowners association says, okay, well, we want to dissolve this now. If they were to dissolve it, they would essentially undo their original approval. So they wouldn't really be able to do that. So, so we've got options how you want to handle it. And I think we should
Yeah.
make sure we nail that down, but
Yeah.
that's,
Can you just show the folks in the audience where the conservation easement is?
Yes. So the 250-foot buffer runs along here, and the conservation easement runs 140 feet from the edge of the wetland on the rear portion of the property.
Why did you decide to do that or go just 140 feet? What was your,
We were
just to give it more protection?
more protection, and we're required to provide conservation as part of the subdivision. We're required to provide 10%.
think that, yeah, so
And that,
checks your box for 10%.
yeah, was
It's open
2.4
space, I think
acres.
is the term.
Yeah, open space or conservation space,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I guess it's not open, but
yeah.
So it's not owned by, that piece of property is not owned by the lot owner.
That is owned by the lot owner, but it's protected by the easement that they can't do anything in it.
they don't, they basically don't have the development rights within 140 feet of the wetland.
So that's considered open space?
Well, it's considered unbuilt space as far as, and we can look at the specific language in the ordinance, because it's not up to me whether or not they made it. It's, it's obviously your decision, but that's,
I'm just gonna look at it. Okay,
so. Anything else you wanted to?
Unless there's really questions, I mean, I can. We've got the subdivision plan, I can leave that up there so folks can ask questions if they like.
Well, I'll go through the couple issues that were in my findings of fact, and you've already touched on some of them. The ordinance requires a performance guarantee that's set an amount by the select board. I think that the planning board can essentially just, as a condition of approval, the applicant's gonna basically meet that with the select board, that you're gonna kick that over to the select board because the select board has the power to set the amount and determine what that what form it is, whether it's a certified check, performance bond. There's options, and they can accept that, where I don't, on behalf of the town, where I don't think the planning board can. So
Never had.
there's, I think we already talked about the 3 waivers that were potentially requested, but you're only looking for the 2 now. One is required improvements and one is monuments. What was the required improvements one?
That was the landscaping plan.
Yes, thank you. Let's see, I had wanted to clarify that the water main is going to be provided and installed by the applicant, and then
Turned over.
is your intention to turn it over to the
Turn it over
district?
to the district.
And if they say
But
they don't want
They don't want it, then it would have to
you'll-
remain private, but we would have to give them an easement for maintenance.
Yeah, I assume they'll take it if you build it to
Yeah.
their standards. but-
Yes,
And is it going to be right along the road? Is that-
it'll be in the road,
In the-
yes, yes. And
Okay, so that's waiver, that's a waiver. And then the road name sign also gonna be provided and
yeah,
installed by.
and so we've got the name approved, so it's just a matter of giving you a sign when it's time.
Okay, so those are the things that I had, but you all had raised a couple things. One was the open space, is that what?
I was trying to check the
See what
the subdivision
standard is.
ordinance, but I'm kind of,
Yep. No, we know it's in here. Let me see if I can find it. Retention of proposed public and, well, no. So it says for residential subdivisions, the subdivider shall reserve a minimum of 10% of the gross area of the subdivision as open space. So what I wrote in here was the application states that there are no existing public sites or open spaces on the property. The project will incorporate 10% of the gross area into a 2.44 acre conservation easement located on lots 3 and 4, and adjacent to the large bog wetland area to the west of the properties.
I think the intent of open space was that it's publicly accessible to the other people in the subdivision. You know what I mean? If it's part of private property, an easement on private property, I'm not really sure.
That's, I don't,
Don't you think that?
I mean, that's certainly not uncommon. Let's see what the ordinance specifically says, because guessing at intent is kind of
Okay,
I think is a dangerous game.
I agree.
So, and I tend to be a little conservative on that. Like if it doesn't say it's, has to be
right.
public or no ordinance reference, subdivision. Let's see what I can.
Are they going to be deep, these water retention areas?
No, yeah, I don't know. Hang on, I can bring up a detail of them.
Waiting for the internet.
Yeah. And my computer's not real happy it doesn't have internet, so
Yeah, it's the Wi-Fi is a little slow.
it keeps yelling at me.
Resident subdivision reserved 10%. Location, so. So what it says is, this is for under, let me give you context. So for anybody who's following along at home, subsection 103.6, general requirements, this is of the subdivision ordinance. Section 3, retention of proposed public sites and open spaces. For residential subdivisions, the subdivider shall reserve a minimum of 10% of the gross area of the subdivision as open space. Depending on the size and location of the subdivision, the board may require the developer to provide up to 10% of this total area for recreation. It is desirable that the area be reserved for recreation, be at least 1 acre in size and easily accessible from all lots within the subdivision.
Not public, but public to the people in the subdivision. I mean, and I don't really see as if this meets that.
Well, you're right. It does say it's desirable, not necessarily required.
Okay.
So it's not it's the strongest language in there. Let me see if there's anything else.
44. Like, for anybody.
No, I'm thinking just for the people in the subdivision. And I remember we did one recently that had,
I think that, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I like that, but
does it mention conservation easements? As a substitute for,
I don't see anything. Well, there's some encouragement of retaining existing trail systems.
all this kind of definitely implies public use, some level of public use.
I think, I imagine that is the desire, but you know, when it says shall be encouraged to retain, or it's desirable if it's,
So
It's
it's
hard.
mentioning conservation easements
that's, I don't see anything,
as a substitute for,
site to use for
Common
active
space.
applications.
I mean, it was definitely. The idea was to have a common space within these subdivisions. A commons.
Yeah, to have some kind of, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, Jenny, that was the intent when it was written. I remember when the Land Use Advisory Committee did that.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it's written firmly, though.
No,
But
that's,
it doesn't mention anything about conservation easements.
no.
And that's kind of like a different interpretation. And when you look at in the past, we've always had subdivisions retain part of the land as a common area. So that's the past practice.
I can't say that I have any clear, like the way the ordinance is, it's not particularly clear. It doesn't say like, you know, here's what the requirement is. So that we have something to
Yeah.
compare
What's the
to.
requirement, 10%?
It says 10% open. Well, let me see, maybe the definition of open space, but it says open space, land set aside for the passive and or active use, including recreation purposes, preservation of environmentally sensitive areas, undevelopable land, and buffers. So
Preservation of, and that's where,
environmentally sensitive, undevelopable land.
But it's set aside. It's not like incorporated in, like the back part of somebody's,
Land set aside for passive and.
set aside. This is not set aside. This is just on someone's lot. And it's not for it doesn't.
Well,
meet
you
the
could
intent.
redo this map, just cut that piece right out of there and leave the 250-foot setback. Lots are still.
Are they big enough?
Yeah, 4 acres, 4 acres.
Yeah, they both-
Almost 4 acres.
Cut that.
And
Lot 4 is the.
give people a right to act,
Yeah,
the
give people a
residents,
right to act
right
there.
to go back down there.
That would cover that.
I mean, that would at least allow everybody to have, the residents in the subdivision to have,
Yeah,
um,
you could take that conservation easement right off of there.
But lot four, that would be unbuildable then.
Lot 4?
Yeah. that little
Uh,
small-
That's 3.81 and the whole conservation easement is only 2.44.
It only
Yeah.
has one
Yeah.
acre of.
Yeah, lot four, if you took out lot four. Is 3.81 acres and 1.37 of the acres is the open, is the conservation easement. So you'd still have 2.2 acres.
Still got over 2 acres.
You still have, both of them would still have more than 2 acres.
Okay,
So like I said, they can provide me for these owners to access this conservation area and use that as their open space. And the reason they couldn't. And these lots that I'm just redraw this, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess it would, you could keep the conservation easement and just make it make the conserved area a separate lot.
Separate
that
lot.
is common to the subdivision. And just you need to connect it to the road, but I imagine it could be
Yeah,
a footpath.
we could put a
Um,
walkway easement to
I
it.
mean, that is up to the planning board. Not whether or not I.
Well, that's what it sounded like by reading that it needs to be separated and
Yeah.
be its own. That's an easy way to resolve that.
and that's how we've dealt with previous applications.
Okay, that's
Good. Well, no finagling for you, I'm sorry, but.
Yeah. Well, I think we had asked that question before and this seemed to be the direction was okay, but we can go back to the drawing board on that.
well, it seems like it hopefully will not be too.
It's not an onerous change, no.
Yeah, are
But
there any other issues that might pop, that might
no, I think,
bring up that we want?
no, I think the lots would still
It looks like those
be
two.
more
lots will be-
than adequate in size.
So, okay. Was
And
there
I did look at the grass under drained soil filters, and those are about 3 feet deep.
If you look at C8, Jenny, on your plans, it draws it right out for it.
Yep. Details B and C are specific details of each one that shows the grading of each.
Do you have a? Well. Where's Snow put?
Snow is off from the hammerhead at the end.
At the beginning?
Nope. Snow storage is off of this end here,
Okay.
not away from the wetlands.
And you delineated the wetlands, right? Did you do your own delineation?
Well, we hired someone to
Yeah,
do it.
okay.
So I'm still concerned about this small wetland, that is not a DEP wetland.
Yeah, and I was looking, that's not on beginning with habitats maps either. So I assume
It's really, it's a couple of feet wide in most of the area. It's really where the hill comes down and it's just a change in grade and that's where the water collects and runs.
But that you did talk to DEP about, and
Yeah, and we're under the 4,300 square foot.
Right.
To require a permit from DEP, but under the current main general permits with Army Corps, every foot is, you need to get a permit from Army Corps.
and that's I have that listed here if you want to make it a condition of approval that they get that permit from the Army Corps before.
So does the Army
Building.
Corps look at the crossing? Is that what they're concerned about? The road?
I don't know if they're I'm not sure what their,
I mean, what's the nature of their review? Do you know?
their review is, one, the amount of wetlands. And two, they also look at any other, they bring in the review of any other endangered species. Which I won't get into the
But
political argument there that that's not the purpose of Army Corps, but that's where you have to look at salmon habitat, bat habitat, and any other endangered species that could be.
Why were they so interested in bats? Are there a lot of bats in that area?
No, there's one species of bat, the main small, there's one species that is endangered, and then there's another species that is almost endangered that are common to this area. And it's not because of their habitat. The one that is endangered is because of a fungus that affects them that actually came from Europe. So it's not that people are building houses or cutting down trees. That's not why the bats are actually endangered, but they are now, because they are endangered, they limit the time of clearing during the year so that you don't disturb them.
We haven't run into that before though, have we?
It comes, anytime we deal with DEP, it comes up, but.
Yeah. Yeah, and anytime you have any wetland that has to go to Army Corps, it comes up because
Yeah.
they have a federal charge to bring up any of the other environmental laws.
So you said the Soil and Water Conservation District reviewed your erosion control plan?
Yes,
What were the suggestions that they made? Did they make any? Or did they just say it was fine?
no, they said it was fine. I think the things that they were concerned with was controlling the peak flow. I
Yeah.
think we showed a slight increase of less than 1 CFS, which is usually acceptable. He asked us to look at it and see if we could get it to zero, which by modeling and changing a little bit of the grading of the road and picking up more area of the road, the model was able to demonstrate a zero discharge or zero increase, so essentially the same amount of water is running off the site at the same rate it was before it would be developed.
Any other questions? All right, we can start this public hearing back up now. As much as we could have. I got one lady who wants to come out. Do you want to come out?
I guess I can start it off, I guess, yeah. So do you need me to stand in front of a microphone or?
Yeah, there's a microphone right here. I'll
Well,
hand over the table.
I'm loud enough as it is. I don't really need a microphone, so thank you.
You know, just so we got you on the record, so.
Okay. Oh, now I'm on the record. Thank you.
State your name and all.
Okay, yeah, I'm Rachel Collmore. Anything else you need from me? Yeah, okay, so I live at 79 Standpipe Road. And I think that along with a handful of my neighbors, I think maybe Ned's the only one who can beat me, maybe Ned and the Souls for how long I've been there. So I've been on Standpipe Road for 45 years. I appreciate very much that this piece of land has been left untouched for as long as it has been, but knew that eventually it would come up for something. I think for me, my biggest concern is maintaining the character of our community, our neighborhood rather, and doing as much as we can to mitigate the water. Like, we're on top of a hill, and I know on my lot that there is so much runoff. If anyone's ever seen my backyard pond, they know what I'm talking about. And I think that it would be wise to, for the sake of changes in our environment and whatever might be happening to this property, to maybe be a little more cautious as far as what can happen with this runoff. So that's one thing. But I will say that my ultimate concern with this is the traffic on Standpipe Road. It is a very, very narrow road. I can I know that one person has died on our road in a motor vehicle accident. The telephone pole at the bottom of Randy's Hill has been hit 3 times and the power has gone out that I can recall, maybe more. We've lost numerous pets. Every time trucks go by and meet in front of my house, a trailer always goes thum thum and goes off the road. The shoulder is just, the pavement is crumbling on the edge right in front of my house. And I worry very much because Standpipe Road has become much of a through street, really. We have no less than 4 Kobe and Gale trucks go zooming by every morning. One day I watched the school bus pull so far over to the right to accommodate, an oncoming car that it hit a basketball hoop and shattered it and blew glass all over the place. So I worry very, very much about how much traffic Standpipe Road can handle. And if we're looking at 8 lots and figuring, maybe 2 cars per, even if people are working from home, that's still a lot of traffic. And I don't know how the town of Damascotta, because that would be a town of Damascotta problem, not the developer's problem, how that might be handled. I appreciate that there's public water there, it's town water, so we're not going to have to worry as much about our wells, though I've jumped on the town water bandwagon because blew too many well pumps and it wasn't worth it anymore. But I worry about that. And I also know that there's a ton of ledge out there. And I don't know enough about construction to understand how much blasting might have to happen out there and what that might mean for vegetation, for septics, for all of that. So I'm not sure if that's anything that you guys can speak to as far as, and can you explain when you mentioned at one of the previous slides about a 6% slope? And I see that somewhere, like
The grade of the road. would be
the grade
9%.
would be 9%.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was an English major, so I wasn't great at geometry. Can you give me a visual for what 9% looks like? Can you like angle wise, like
It's 9 feet over 100 feet. So if you have
9 feet over 100 feet?
foot long stretch, it would drop 9 feet.
Okay.
In 100.
Okay, because I played out there as a kid. I used to watch Ian Boyd ride his dirt bikes out there. And it's pretty damn steep, and it's a pretty impressive hill out there. And then I assume that whoever buys the lot on the road would want to maintain that beautiful lilac bush that I've been picking lilacs off since I could walk. That's a small thing, I don't know, but I just wanted to throw that one in on the top. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to say, but I can't say enough that I am very, very concerned already about the traffic that exists on Standpipe Road. I drive 25 on Standpipe Road because I know that everybody else is driving 45 and I need to be ready because I meet cars constantly down by the old dump on Ned's Hill. Like that's very concerning. I have 4 kids. There's 17 kids that live on Standpipe Road and countless pets. And we're all doing our best to yell car, but it's scary. And I'm right at the top of that little hill and people come flying up over that hill and they come right towards my house. So
Think about contacting the road commissioner.
I have contacted the road commissioner. I spoke with someone here at the town about possibly lowering the speed limit to 25, knowing that maybe if the speed limit was 25, they'd actually do 35 instead of 45. And I was referred to the state and I made multiple calls and I didn't get through to anyone. I heard nothing. So that was frustrating. I speak with Jason Warlick, who I'm friends with on a regular basis. I'm like, hey, Jason, you want to get some ticket money, come to Standpipe Road about 7:30 in the morning and, you can park in my driveway if you want to. So and honestly, I've seen the cops drive too fast on Standpipe Road. I stepped out from my mailbox to kind of give hey, there's people coming and shot a dirty look and realized it was the Damascotta PD pickup truck. And I was like, whoops, gotcha. So, scary. So I don't know what the answer is to that. There hasn't been an answer to it thus far. But I hope to be on Standpipe Road for a while longer if I can help it. So I think I'm done.
It's not a state road.
Okay.
Why would they refer people to the state?
It's
not state service.
If it's DOT, I don't,
I think it had to do with the rules for how many houses within how many feet, like, and that's something about, there was some kind of equation they used to determine speed limits based on the number of houses, the length of the road, and how dense the houses were. And I wanted to learn more, but like I said, I never got a call back.
yeah. Speed limits are tricky, and I don't know. Usually when we encounter them, it's on state or state aid roads, and it can be problematic because there are plenty of towns that have brought DOT in and said, we want to do a traffic study and reduce the speed limit. But the way that DOT calculates speeds and sets their speed limits, there've been cases where they've come in, done their study and said, oh, this speed limit should be even higher, actually. And they set it higher, even though the community's like, that's not what we're looking for. They're changing some of that. I don't know with this I don't believe this is state aid. I think this is just
Town road.
just a regular, town road. So
Yeah.
I imagine we would have more input in setting a speed limit. Getting people to follow it's a separate question.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But not that there's other things that we could do. It comes down to resources. Like there are things you can do to encourage people to slow down, but
How long did you go to the road commission?
Lisa, do you remember when I called the road commissioner? If I went through my text messages, I could find out. It was less than a year ago. Yeah,
Maybe
So-
try a selectmen's meeting.
there you go.
You know, those little blinking signs that tell you your speed?
We've had those there before. And it's interesting because we've had a couple instances where there have been people who are not neighbors and are really just trying to avoid like the school, the 15-mile-per-hour zone. It's a nice little quick get around. Honestly, I don't like to go down Biskie Road, and I've been a little bummed that Hager's been messing up my jam, blocking off Back Meadow Road. But there are a couple people that have gone by, and we've kind of given the hey, slow down, and they actually seem to react in the opposite. There are a couple of people, that it doesn't always work. So, and humans are humans. I can only control my behavior. I can't control theirs. And I'm not going to say that every person drives like that, but we've got some people that drive pretty darn fast.
Unfortunately,
And they're everywhere. For sure.
35 miles an hour at my house, and they go by there all the time.
Like they're
65.
Butts are on fire.
Easy. Right.
Yep. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not one of them
You know
though.
where my house.
I know where your house is. I do.
Really? One of the people at the beach.
Oh,
There's
gosh, I
nothing-
know.
I mean, what are you gonna do? I wouldn't even call Standpipe Road a secondary road. It's more of a thirdary road.
It is very, very narrow.
It really is.
It's incredibly narrow. Like I said, if you go by my house, right, I've got a fire hydrant right in front of the house, and you can see there's just a gully there from where all of them just boom, and you hear the trailers jump, and that's not even the curviest part of the road. So just, very concerned about that.
So the last thing I'll say is that like traffic generally is not really like, it's not that the planning board,
Yeah, that's really no.
it really more of is a townwide kind of select board planning issue. So like, I'm very interested, but I don't think that this development is going to cause a dramatic spike in speeding, or, I mean, I guess it would be, if the planning board thought so, then that
don't-
would matter.
I don't know.
But this is kind of death by a thousand paper cuts, because like this one development probably isn't going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, but you add all of them together and you get traffic. So it's I totally relevant, but the way that our ordinance is, it's not like you can kind of point at a smoking gun from this development. So it's unfortunate. Well, it's just the nature of it is something that we have to deal with, I think, more through.
Well, I don't think it would take long for people who would buy these lots to realize that they don't want to speed on their own road.
Yeah.
I think more to Jonathan's point that it's really a road that's not designed for a lot of traffic, and we already have too much traffic as it is.
Something else. They're probably not gonna want to tick off their neighbors.
I hope not.
I'm just saying.
I hope not. So I think I've said my piece. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the information that you provided. But I think that there are still a lot of things to sort out and make sure that this is going to fit well within our little neighborhood.
I might go to a selectmen meeting if I was you and ask them what they think.
About the speeding on the Standpipe Road. I'm starting to.
Even improving the road some,
I'm starting to sound like Francis, worrying about people driving down the park road too fast.
quite that bad. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this?
Yeah, I'm not very good at this, but. I'm Richard Egan. I live on the Standpipe Road and that borders my land. Okay, I have a stream that runs through my property off of that hill. And it's still flowing today. That water doesn't stop after 2 days. It flows for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And that's going to add more to it on my property.
Are you to the south then?
I'm at the top of the hill
On the top?
on the left.
Okay.
So is that, I'm just wondering if it's from that
Trying to
kind of the smaller wetland that we've identified, if that's where the stream is. Would you be able to kind of point out where it is on the map?
At the end of the road, I do believe there's that little gully right there
Yeah.
that flows right across my property.
Yeah, okay.
So all that extra snow, all that extra water is coming across my property.
Yeah.
Before it gets to the swamp.
Yeah, does that end up going into the?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so, yeah, it
So-
does end up, it is connected.
And the 250 feet is the old county road.
Not,
What do you mean?
yeah.
From Knowlton Corner, before Standpipe was built, was the old county road. It comes completely across that back ledge, that back ridge,
Mhm.
and it comes out just above the house. That's the 2-story house with all the solar panels on it.
Yep.
That's where one part comes out. The other part breaks off of that old county road, comes across my property and comes out between Randy and the old dump, where the new guy is gonna do something out in back of that up there, where the town had to give him a right of way to his landlocked land. So there is a road there already. You can't use it, but I met a couple that walked it for 50 years. So I told them, great, just don't get off the road. They lived right down on the corner at Knowlton Corners. And I don't know if it's anything to do with an endangered species, but there are a lot of owls that live back there. That lot and my lot empty water across mine.
Well, we could go look at that,
I think we need a site visit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
at least on that part of it. I don't want to walk the whole thing.
Because I'm kind of curious to know where that storm retention area is, right? The stormwater retention area is right at the base.
Depending on the size of that lot at the end of the road,
Yeah,
that wet spot comes right across
okay.
mine. And up above that is where the water comes in from the 2 lots next to me, the White House and the trailer. That whole thing empties across my land. And that concerns me. Because you're gonna open up to the sky and more water is gonna be flowing.
Are you looking at it on a map,
I'm looking at it, actually, it's, yeah, satellite.
satellite photo?
Bullet right.
That's why I was trying to get those habitat maps. I thought they might have images of that area.
If you looked at a topographical map, that ridge goes from the end of Pemaquid Lake all the way down to Bristol. I don't know how high it is where the tower is, but I'm at 118 feet above sea level there. But it's all downhill from my house to the swamp. And that's all where all that water goes, and then off of the Moultons and part of Randy.
Mhm.
Water towers at 200 feet, just in case.
Well, they gotta be big,
Yeah, the what I'm looking at, beginning of habitat doesn't have that secondary, that smaller wetland mapped on it, so.
Okay.
Not that, I mean, obviously it exists, I just am saying like the maps aren't. So
Yeah, we included a copy of that in the application.
the beginning with habitat
Starting with-
maps,
and
Maybe it was in the report back. I can definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't pick it right out. So I think I can find the general area that it's in. Yeah.
That's.
the, you're,
Property,
you mean
and
the,
that's-
where the.
That's Rich's property right here. Comes down,
from the road to the swamp I own.
goes back down.
Where's, how far is Standpipe off of?
Quite a ways. It's up
Yeah,
in here.
yeah, there, okay, okay.
It's quite a hike down the woods. I mean, you can find.
Yeah, there, that's gotta be it, right?
What's that?
The stream when you,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Yeah,
The,
it's right there.
yeah. The stream, I mean, the wetland, that
Yeah,
water,
this is it right.
No, I don't mean wetland, I mean, I have a stream
Yeah.
that flows.
yeah. No, I don't,
And it,
Yeah.
and a lot of it comes off of that lot right there,
I don't think it's.
at the end of the road.
Okay.
I take it that's what that means right there. It's a wet spot right there.
that kind of shaded area.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes right
That's,
across the line.
that's, so like the maps that I've got, which are not super high resolution or anything, don't show that area is wet. It shows the larger wetland at the back of the property, but it doesn't show that where you're
Don't
coming.
wear sandals.
But the applicant did get a wetland delineation, so someone went out there, found that wetland and marked it on there. It's not big enough for shoreline zoning to address. And then I don't know what, not a stormwater or, you know, conservation expert, but I know the report that you went back, that you took back and forth, that the applicant took back and forth with the conservation the Knox County Water and Soil Conservation District. I'm assuming looked at that and said,
Yeah, they looked at that.
so not that your concerns aren't valid, but I know they talked.
I think that's gonna be a lot more water coming across my property from the road.
Yeah, I imagine, do you have any specifics? Can you say like, here's how much water is going into that
Yeah.
area?
The road is, both sides. Are ditched to collect it and bring it across into this treatment area. And then the same for the lower portion is brought over to this treatment area, which are on the opposite side. So they've got water's got to discharge and run down. And it's maintained in there to release at the same rate it would before.
And it's still gonna come across my land though.
Well, it goes across your land now. It's supposed to be at the same
But there's a
rate.
lot less that's being collected. That's all ledge.
Yeah, but this pond is not a pond, but treatment area is gonna collect that water and slowly release it. So it should release at the same rate as when it was covered with trees. Because We're not letting the ditches just run straight down the hill and towards your property. Water's collected and put into these areas that the water has to percolate through soil and then go into perforated pipes underneath that soil.
Until it
So
hits
these
the,
have-
until it hits the ledge.
Well,
Yeah.
we're not- There's ledge there, we'll have to remove the ledge. To make treatment areas fit.
I think that the certainly the point of the water retention system, and this review, the intention is to try to minimize or eliminate exactly what you're concerned about. I mean, I'm not making any guarantees, but your concern is very valid, and that's what at least this is trying to get at. So,
And 1,000 feet of road with snow, that's a big pile.
yeah. Well, not now, all of it, I imagine, it's not like it's all going to to that drain retention area and then through.
Pushed off. so-
There's, how many do you have? Is it the two or is there another one? Yeah, okay. So,
Point out the lots for me, please.
It is. 1, 2, I may not get the number in there, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side, 2 on this side, and then 2 down at the end.
And where's that 250 feet?
That's
Right,
there.
that's just about where the old county road is.
Yeah, I say, if, I didn't encounter that in any of the old research, but that would make sense. with
It's
that
there,
ridge that we
believe me.
had. I do believe it. I mean, that ridge, and that's where they were able to find a lot of good test pits.
That, the Ridge Road, the old county road came out on the Visky Road. Then it cut off and came up by the dump.
Yeah, that would make sense why this. That knoll continues on.
Yeah, that little ridge runs along the whole, the whole edge of the swamp.
That's probably what's holding it in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ledge,
the ledge going down.
right?
Think we need to go look at this?
I would like to. Just have a better understanding. What about, there were some concerns raised about blasting and stuff.
Well, they don't blast septic systems, one thing. That doesn't happen.
No.
You can't.
So it would be, any blast would be for a house foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there may,
Like nowadays with today's technology, a lot of these houses are going in on slabs. If I had a house, if I was gonna build a house, it was all ledge.
Yeah.
Blasting's expensive.
Yep, and radon.
Somebody could.
I did,
Yeah,
I blasted, I'm in the ground.
but still, I mean. When you built your place, the technology wasn't quite as good as it is now either.
No, but my
A
house,
while ago.
my house still stays warm.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another fellow.
Okay.
Have we addressed all your, or list, have you said everything you wanted to say?
Just remember, a lot of owls live back there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ned, did you want to talk? Sure.
I'm Ned Kirkland. I've been on the other side of this a good many times. I've been on the planning board, I've been planning board chair and whatever, and I'm a resident of what is now called Standpipe Road. I guess I've been around too long because I've been through Knowlton's Corner Road, I've been through the Dump Road, and now I'm Standpipe Road. It's all the same road, but it's very busy, as some of your folks have already mentioned. It's very busy. It's been very nice this week, or the last few weeks, where Hague has been putting in a water line and restricted the traffic on Standpipe Road to local residents only. And in my opinion, that's the direction the town should go. and directing that road to be for residents only. But I'm not here to talk about the road tonight. I'm here to talk about what I've seen on that lot since it was sold. And I've seen very unprofessional work done, both in terms of gravel and the road that was put in, the electrical that was put in, and I'm most concerned about whether the quality that I saw in that work is going to be the same quality that I'm going to see in the construction of this subdivision. Because right now, it's very negative on my part.
Has there been construction done on the road yet?
Not on this road, no. I mean, I think previously there was a drive area and gravel put down in there, and I'm not.
That
but it was
wasn't
before we were
involved.
involved in the project.
So it hasn't been in the last 6 months.
It was last summer,
Oh, it was last summer.
and I don't know who you are or who the owners are or anything else, but as a resident of that area, the construction that I saw then is what brought me here tonight, because I don't want to see that quality of construction further destroying that property.
What specifically was your concern?
Have you seen it?
I drove by it and saw sort of a muddy mess.
I mean, I haven't seen it. I didn't know that any work was done on a road out there.
There's
I mean-
been something punched in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, the road hasn't been constructed, to the best of my knowledge, correct?
No, but there's like
But there
a,
was an area that was cleared out,
And
some gravel was brought in.
gravel, we show the outline of that on the plan, but that was there before we
All right.
started on the project,
Okay.
so I can't really comment.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Hey, so if something was approved, it didn't come before the board. If there was a road there,
It's not a road, it's more like it's just
It's just
cleared area. It was
clear.
gravel.
Yeah.
It is not a road.
Okay, so whatever
Then you look at it.
was didn't come before the planning board, so I don't know any details about it. Hopefully, it at least went through code enforcement, but I can tell you the current code enforcement officer started in January, so it sounds like this is before his time too.
They would have had to have a road opening permit. to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
They would have had to have.
so
That's all they would have had to have.
that seems reasonable.
It
But
is-
so I'm just saying, I don't know. It didn't
Is
come
that,
before me.
is that to be the road? The start of the road?
It's gonna be in that general area, but I think we have needed to realign it to make it intersect perpendicular and make sure we had sight distances for a safe entrance in both directions.
Okay, so what I see right now is gonna be eradicated,
Yes.
and you have your construction oversight. That would be
Yeah.
by code officer or by the board.
So they have standards they gotta build the road to, and then the code enforcement officer is gonna enforce and confirm that they do build it to that standard.
Yeah, because that's been a horror in years past, and the standard hasn't been met, and ultimately the town ends up with a mess.
You're right.
Yeah. No, that's so at least generally that'll be addressed in the conditions of approval, and the new code enforcement officer, Mike Tatro, is very good. I'm very happy that he's joined us, and he's more than happy to come out and check the road, check progress,
And
and
additionally, that's why you're requiring the bonding, or the
For-
performance
yeah.
guarantee now, if it's not constructed right.
Right.
The money is there for the town to take that money and fix the problem.
yeah,
They've determined that there is a problem.
Okay, so that should be considered. You raised the question about how much performance was gonna be retained.
Hmm.
You might consider,
well, and actually, I haven't even started discussing, but the conversation that I've had with Andy, town manager and road commissioner, is we can estimate how much a road costs, and we can talk to the sewer district and estimate how much the water main's going to cost, and we should be able to get to a pretty accurate number. And I imagine they'll put a buffer in it, because ideally the developer builds it appropriately. We don't need a clip on the bond, but if we get to that point,
Ideally.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on up.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Lisa Slavic and I live on Standpipe Road. And I have a few points. I got a chance to look through the application. There's a lot of information, so much, and it took me hours. And so one thing I would like to request is that the public have access to the maps, not where they have to show up I came to the town office during hours and it was closed. I emailed you and I didn't hear back twice.
yes.
Yeah, and so, and a lot of mail. There were some notices sent in the mail. The mail was disrupted because on Standpipe Road, sometimes the mail truck didn't come through. So there were like deadlines for various things. And, you know, I got my May 15th newspaper on the 31st. So just as an example, or the recent, I think there was a recent application, a notice of an application for stormwater to the Department of Environment, something. And that was dated the 22nd and I received it on the 30th and it said there's 14 days to give feedback, if I understood right. So it just feels very compressed, and I've spoken with various neighbors and they really don't know a lot about all the details, or, you know, in the beginning even didn't quite understand which lot was in question. So I am asking that there could be a postponement or a delay so that the public can easily access the information in, you know, a time that works for them, and that the public can give feedback, like a bigger window, so no decision is made today on any information. Oh, okay, because there in the notice, it said something like a decision might be made at this meeting, if I
Yeah.
understood right. So I just wanted to like, whoa, that's a lot to like hear about some things for the first time, try to process it, give feedback, and then have a decision be made. So I'm glad that that's. So I'm curious how the public will be able to access the information, so I can like pass it on to my neighbors as well. I'm sure they would love to see all the maps and read the reports. So that is one thing.
Those on the town website.
They're not on the website right now because of the
New website.
rollover at website. So yeah, that's a technical snafu, which isn't your problem, but
It's good to know.
normally.
It's good to know that something's a little, you know. Another one, I also wanted a site visit. I think it would be nice for the board to get a chance to see what's represented in the maps and have that relationship with the land, and also for the public to be able to walk the land and understand better the relationship of the maps to the physical space. I was curious what the planning board thinks about, I came to some of those comprehensive plan meetings, and so I was just curious how a subdivision in a rural area fits with that plan, because to my understanding, there was it says to keep growth in the growth areas. It mentions housing, but housing for workforce and affordable housing, and I don't believe this is either of those. And I believe, I can't remember if it was the comprehensive plan or something else, like land ordinances. I don't remember where I read it, but it talked about protecting and preserving green spaces, wild spaces. And so those were three things that came to mind in relation to the comprehensive plan. So I'm curious, you know, and if subdividing, if this is approved to subdivide this land, does it set precedents so that in the rural area, more land will be soon subdivided? And then curious then, what does rural mean when it's full of subdivisions? Currently, there are many like small businesses that are along Standpipe Road that are all in relationship with the land. And myself included, I have a small farm with goats and chickens, but there's, there's Oyster Creek and there's Apex, so mushrooms and tree trimming, and I know Back Meadow Road and landscaping, that history. So I'm just thinking, what is rural? The spaces that are there seem to fit rural. There's agriculture, there's forestry. And so just curious how subdivision fits with that, and very concerned about wetlands development, because the soil, once it's disrupted, those layers that take decades to build, they can't just be replaced really quickly with some runoff and collection. I have a heart for soil, and so I feel that. Let's see, I think I have one more thing. Oh, in the reports, some of what I read, it said like, well, it seemed that various reports were based on either like pre-existing reports of similar areas or nearby areas, or old maps where the particular thing wasn't actually studied. So when the summary of the report says, this thing wasn't present, there's no data that this is present. What I read in the individual reports was that it's just that thing wasn't studied. So no data doesn't mean that whatever X is doesn't exist, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? I feel like thumbs up. I used to teach, so thumbs up if that makes sense. So yeah, so for example, like about the bats, about certain plants, those are a few things that come to mind. And one of the reports said there was a recommendation for a wetlands scientist to come out and actually do, because there's a soil study, but that isn't necessarily wetlands. I think I read on the soil study that, it was done for the purpose of development. It wasn't done for the purpose of like conservation or to understand the wetlands. So those are a few things. I don't know, while I'm sitting here, if you have questions for me or clarifiers.
They did have a wetlands scientist do a delineation, an
Okay.
on-site delineation.
There was an on-site one?
Yeah, on-
Okay,
on
maybe
the
I
plan.
missed that or misunderstood, because I saw there was a recommendation, but thank you for that. And it was a lot of information to process and try to like,
Yes.
get ready to say something at a meeting, because, just, all right. I think that's everything from me. If you have.
Will all
any-
that information get put on the website so they can look at it?
So what I normally, yes, I would just say, yes, we'll put it on the website. If I had used the website and had access and knew how to do it, it would already be on there. But what it's on the town's drive, and that's usually what I share, just a link. That's what goes on the website, is a link to all of that information. So I'm going to try and get it on the website. And what I'll say is, if you need it, I'll try and give it to, I mean, you can email me at planner@, and I will try and share that link with you, or maybe I can give it to the clerk as well, so that she can share it as well if anybody needs it.
So electronically it would be.
I think it's the best way. The alternative, and like the standard for sharing the minimum, what's in the ordinance anyway, is that the application is here at the town office so that the public can come and look at it. And that's kind of the requirement that we give to applicants. It's like, that's what needs to be here. Obviously, things are changing, that no one wants to do that anymore. Not nobody.
And the difficulty, like I came on Tuesday at 2 and it was closed because there was, which I didn't, I was ready to come see it, and the office was closed. There was a training or
I
something.
think it was from the website.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I got lucky timing, or
Yeah.
unlucky.
but generally speaking, that's something that I would like to address, that we're trying to address. That information, it'll be available. If I can't get it onto the web, if it doesn't show up on the website soon, then or you don't even have to wait for it. You can email me, or I'll let the clerk know as well that that I'll give them the link so that anybody who wants it can see it. I think the planning board, I already share it with you all. You're welcome to share it with, it's the same link that I give to everybody. So it'll be there. The issues with notice, so it's not perfect, but we follow what's in the ordinance, and what the ordinance requires is posting it to the newspaper twice, and sending direct mail to abutters. And usually our typical thing is we also will post it here, like post it on the bulletin board and put it on the website. But what the ordinance calls for is just post it in the newspaper twice, which it was, and then the direct mailers to abutters. So
For some reason I searched on the first day I heard about it was the 18th, and I was like searching, and I don't know why it didn't come up, but it did come up for me recently. So I did see that it was, so I don't know how that works. Is there any chance, I know sometimes you all have lists where you email or you text. Is there any way that you can do that for people in a certain area that need to know? Because I would have liked to know, like, as soon as,
yes, well, kind of. We can't do like a specific, I don't think we can do a specific area, but
sign up for notifications or
yeah, exactly. The new website, and I think the old one did too, but I'm not sure how exactly it worked. But the new website, I believe, is going to have this, like, you can sign up for notifications if you want to get, don't quote me, but my understanding is that it's like, if you want to get select board agendas ahead of the meeting, as soon as town manager posts them, like, a notice can go out. And I'd like to do the same thing for the planning board. So I'm working on it, but yes, I mean, I think everything you're saying is fair, and the fact that it's not, that the transparency of this was not better is, unfortunate. I apologize for that. So that's that. The comp plan, and a lot of the issues that you raise, what is rural and all of that, that is stuff that's in the comp plan. The comp plan has not trickled down yet to ordinance updates, but hopefully we'll be getting there. That is high on my list of priorities to work on. But that's that community conversation of like, well, where do we want subdivisions? Where do we not? Where do we want development? Where do we not? Was comp plan, and then as we're doing implementation, is exceptionally relevant. So
yeah, I went back and I read it again. I read the rural again. I read the subdivision again, and trying to, like, make sure I understand it all. So yeah,
it's a lot.
It is a lot.
My job every day, and it's a lot. So
definitely. Is there anything else?
Good.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I had a thought. Stand back. Well, it has to deal with this conservation easement on this end of this. And like we said, you could break it out, make it its own entity and allow right away across that. But why couldn't they just leave the lots as such, as they're configured, and give a right of way to the other remaining lots to access the conservation easement? Wouldn't that cover that issue?
Doesn't make it a standalone.
No, it doesn't make it standalone, but it does allow green space for these individuals here. Just a thought.
You thinking about footpath?
Yeah.
Way?
Like they could put a footpath in there, and, the lots that already have that property on them have already got it, but these other ones have an access to that conservation easement. Would that not?
That's all
satisfy that?
protection anyways.
Pardon me?
That's all resource protection. You can't do.
Yeah, you
anything
can't
with.
do anything down in there.
But I think that it would give, well, either way, it would give the residents, whether it's set
Well,
off or
I was
not.
thinking that it may be a lot more work to try
to
to
separate it.
separate this out and then support it.
So what do you mean support it?
Somebody's gonna pay taxes on it.
Well, it would be the
It would have to be an association,
Resident-
but in this
it would
case,
be
it would
like-
be, if it stays part of the lots, it'll be taxed as part of the lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, right. And
I mean, he could still break that out
Yeah. I think,
and give
That
these
makes sense,
people an
yeah.
easement across the property to get to it.
yeah,
Not an easement across the property, an easement to access the entire area of the conservation easement.
Well, that's it. That's what I'm saying.
I think that they would need an easement to potentially cross
Yeah.
this lot, or unless they just make this lot like a T.
Yeah, well, there's already a shared easement from the end of the road for the two lots. to
Yeah.
Share a driveway.
Yeah.
Part of the way to cross, so we only have one crossing over that wetland.
Right.
So we have those
Oh, yeah.
line and then they would cross over and then split. We could continue a
Continue back
footpath
down.
easement from the end of that
Okay.
down to the open space.
Never mind what I said. I might eat up the water.
That's,
Who'd have thought?
I think, so, I mean, it sounds like,
That sounds doable. I think that would make it much more intact or in tune with what the ordinance said is that would make it available. We'd be preserving
well,
environment and preserving the area. Plus, we'd be giving the lot owners, all the lot owners access.
Okay. Yeah.
so I just want to, is the board kind of comfortable with either? I think originally it was step that off, or it can be left as part of those two properties and.
No, let's just rescind that. That was my
No,
idea.
we don't, okay.
That was
All
my
right.
idea.
I like this idea.
I didn't think it was bad. I just want to make
I
sure.
liked your idea, Jonathan. For what it's.
Well, believe it or not, I liked it.
I thought it was a perfect, and I think it would be easier to do, but. if nobody
That's,
likes it, I mean-
well, no, that's why I'm saying it sounds like potentially the applicant could go either way, and I just want to, before they pick one. I don't want to give them, I don't want to suggest that they can go either way and then have the board come back and be like, no, actually, we didn't like the first idea or the second idea, so. Is it 6-1, half of them?
One of them's gotta go, so. Yeah.
Well,
Let's just-
yeah, either way, it serves the purpose of that. Your way makes lot owners 3 and 4 pay taxes on land that they can't use.
Well, they can't.
And if it's broken away and it goes to the association, all 8 lots share the cost of it.
Well, that's a valid point too. Yeah, all right,
You know.
I get that.
I'd be upset if I bought lot 4 and I ended up having to pay the taxes on all of that property, even though that I couldn't use it, but everybody has access to it. It makes more sense to have it separated and then everybody shares that cost.
Yeah.
I
that makes
would
sense to me, Joe.
I agree with you.
I think as far as taxes go, though, that you can factor that in with assessing, like, they might own all the way to the wetland, but they wouldn't own the development rights and they wouldn't own like exclusive use of that, and all the other lots potentially would be that much more valuable because not only does it come with their lot, it also comes with a right to,
Yeah.
you see that a lot with a right to the water, makes your property that much more
I think
valuable.
breaking it
But-
up is still the best idea.
Either way,
Break it out,
I think it's, so it sounds like,
Break it up.
I mean,
break it out.
Cleaner.
I own some protected wetland, and I know quite a lot about owning protected wetland. Everybody having access to it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That's that sour taste you have.
Went to a selectman now.
all right, so.
15 years ago. Went through a big row and had to get it. Had to have, the code enforcement officer come out and have an inspection, then they had to have the tax guy. Come look at it and agree that nothing could be done there. Can't do a thing, can't cut it free, nothing. So at that point in time, taxes on it were about $700. So I went into the selectmen's meeting and I said, listen, guys, I'm only gonna give this to the Pembroke Watershed Association and I'll own it for $100 a year, and that's it. That's all I'm gonna give them. It's up to $450 again. Go ahead. Tell me about protected wetland. And that's a true story. And guess what? The taxes on my house went up almost $500 a year. I did that. I think it was just a coincidence.
All right, so we're gonna do a site visit.
I think we're gonna do a
you
site
wanna schedule a
visit. I'd like to go down there and see that. Yeah. I mean, we can walk in there and use this, walk right to it. So,
So would you like to schedule a site visit?
do it in the afternoon.
Okay.
Tomorrow afternoon I can't, 'cause I got a meeting, but
Well, we gotta advertise it, right?
you gotta advertise it,
Yeah.
that's right.
So I don't know, but
Why don't you pick time that works out, get it.
what I'm wondering is like, if two of you go, it's not a public, it's not a planning board meeting, also wouldn't be public. So, so that's if you want to go quick, I think that might be an option. Otherwise, we're looking at June, probably the week of June 16th would be the soonest. Not even be. We advertise it Thursday and the 12th. Yeah, we could probably do it the week of the 16th.
Okay.
Pick something out that works for you.
Do you want to do Monday, June 16th?
Okay.
That day after Father's Day?
That is the day after Father's Day.
Nope.
Okay, great.
I'll be in northern Maine.
Perfect. There's a select board on the 18th. I mean, I guess we could do it Tuesday.
I can do it Tuesday, I'll be back.
Tuesday's good.
Tuesday, okay.
Tuesday.
17th.
Tuesday the 17th at 5:30.
Perfect. Yeah, I should just put it back.
Okay.
Excuse me, is that just for you guys or is it for the neighbors
You can
too?
come too. if you want.
Neighbors can come. No problem with that? Is that an issue?
No, I'm, the 17th.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it'll be an official planning board meeting, so
You guys know,
the
come.
public can be there. Technically, the planning board doesn't have to let you make comments or provide input if they don't want to, but
We're gonna get a rain date on that too, right?
yeah, why don't we you want to do a rain date on
Pouring rain, that's quite a long walk in there through the woods.
what? Let me see. Okay, so let's do that one. And then you want to do the following Monday, June 23rd?
Do that.
Okay.
At 5:30 again?
Yeah, does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Is that,
So that's the rain date.
so the rain date will be 6 days later, but. Okay.
What day was that?
So the site visit's gonna be scheduled for June 16th at 5:30. And the rain date is gonna be Monday, June 23rd. at
June
5:30.
17th. June 17th.
What did I say?
You said 16th.
No, sorry,
17.
June 17th, Tuesday
Okay.
is the site visit. If that's a rain out, Monday, June 23rd. Both at 5:30. Both are gonna be at the driveway that's there.
Yeah.
That's where we're gonna meet. I don't know what the address is, but
Yeah, there's,
it's not, I mean, there is no address yet,
there's no address.
but it'll be,
It's easy to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won't get lost.
I'm not sure how I'll put that in the newspaper, but I'll figure it out. Okay, okay,
Alright.
got that.
Put that to bed?
Yeah, is there anything else anybody wants to say, other?
I'm good.
You know what, maybe the only other thing I want to just go through quickly, hopefully there's no issues, but the conditions of approval. So these are the ones that I'm suggesting go on the site plan that the planning board will, the subdivision plan of the planning board will sign. And it's prior to the issuance of any construction permits associated with the proposed subdivision and prior to the commencement of any construction approved under this application, the applicant shall provide to the town a performance guarantee in the amount and form agreed to by the select board. So that's the performance guarantee that we're gonna have to go to the select board for. Unless we can get it resolved before the next planning board meeting. We'll see. Okay. Next, all improvements proposed under this application shall be completed and confirmed to have been completed in writing by the code enforcement officer of the town of Damascotta no later than December 2026. So I think it's like a year and I think it's 18 months about. No individual lots may be sold until all improvements proposed under this application have been constructed and completed. No individual lots may be sold until all conditions of approval have been satisfied unless expressly stated otherwise in language of the conditions. No building permit shall be issued by the town for any buildings within the subdivision addressed by this application prior to the completion or satisfaction of all applicable conditions of approval unless explicitly stated otherwise in language of the condition. Proposed lots 1 and lot 8 should not allow any vehicular access to and from Standpipe Road that we discussed. All roads in the subdivision shall remain private roads to be maintained by the developer or the lot owners and shall not be accepted or maintained by the town until they meet all municipal street design and construction standards and are approved as such by the legislative body of the town of Dambroscotta at a town meeting. That language is in ordinance. I just pulled it. A proposed street name will be submitted for review by the town's 911 coordinator, and a sign will be provided at completion of construction. This may occur after a building permit for improvements associated with the subdivision is issued, but no individual lots may be sold prior to the naming of proposed road through E91 process and installation of a street sign. So
You gotta install the street sign or
I think that I could be flexible on it.
I think you need to build a road and put the street sign in.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'll,
But the street sign's gonna be up before you can get building permits on the lot.
I think honestly, as long as it's clear that the developer is putting up the street sign, I don't think it'd be.
That's a lot of language for a street sign.
Yeah, right, that's why I don't. So what's the planning board, how do you feel about? Okay,
I feel we got a whole month to absorb that.
yeah, so no issues on that stuff, let me know.
And we have, and the road's already approved, so that's,
The name, yeah,
name's
right.
approved, so.
Right, so that may be
That
actually-
one's already met, so.
I just wanted to say them out loud, so if the board has any concerns, please let me know. Okay, that's all I got on that one.
Do we ever, ask for conditions in homeowners association agreements regarding subdivisions?
I don't think there's anything in the ordinance, but it's something that, we could. I think for the most part, I think that if we can put them on the subdivision plan, that's the best, most straightforward way to do it. But I think that we could,
Cause anybody that searches for the title is gonna go to the plan.
yeah, at least first,
Text.
so,
There you go, me, Jim.
okay.
I don't know, woods set.
Um,
All right. I think we flogged that enough.
I think so.
Back Meadow Heights.
We officially have to close that
application.
public hearing.
Yeah.
I'll be able to officially close that public hearing.
Well, we should. Been so long, I forgot it was even off. So we can close this public hearing. Everybody's had their say.
Quick question in relation?
What?
I just realized I didn't hear, is there a new deadline for public to give feedback? After the information becomes accessible? Is there a deadline that?
No real deadline. If you come to the next meeting, I'm sure you can be.
Okay, thank you.
I guess that's a good, well, so we're gonna table this and carry it to the next meeting.
Yep.
Is there any reason that we should I guess we don't need to renotice anything. So I won't put it in the newspaper again. I won't advertise another public hearing.
So we can table the public hearing until next meeting rather than closing it, right? And then
Yeah.
that stays within the same, I think we dealt with that one other time.
Yeah, I think that we can
Let's go ahead
do
and do
that,
that.
so.
We'll table the public hearing until the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would be after the site visit.
Brilliant.
So
I love it.
that, should we second that? Was that a motion?
If you agree with it.
Yeah.
Okay, he'll make him.
I second it.
All those in favor.
Okay,
Make this
all right.
fine. All those opposed? Nobody. Good. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty. Now let's get back to Back Meadow Heights, application for subdivision amendment.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm Cameron Ferrante. Clarity here for Stuart Lee, right back there. So before you is the application for an amendment to the approved subdivision plan for Back Meadow Heights. essentially what we're asking to do is take the cul-de-sac that was built instead of a hammerhead and expand it a little bit, bring it into compliance with the town standards, and get an amendment to the subdivision plan to officially recognize that cul-de-sac as what's actually supposed to be there. So I understand this has been a source of contention in the town, and I apologize for that. It certainly wasn't anyone's intent, but we're here tonight and we've been trying to work in good faith with the town and with all of the affected lot owners to get this solved as quickly as possible. So I'm happy to answer any questions, hear from the board, any of their concerns. But hopefully we can move this process forward.
Is this cul-de-sac like one that was original?
So what happened was in 2018, the plan was approved with a hammerhead turnaround. And then at the request of so it was approved with a hammerhead at the request of a property owner, a cul-de-sac was put in. It's a little outside the bounds of the existing hammerhead. And then subsequently, the town identified that it was supposed to be a hammerhead and not a cul-de-sac, and that caused some issues for some permit applicants, which we weren't aware of because the actual conditions of approval weren't included on the original plan. So it became a bit of a headache. So we're here tonight to kind of keep the cul-de-sac, expand it so it's got a uniform radius, interior and exterior, which should be adequate for ingress and egress by emergency vehicles, school buses, all kinds of things. And then that way the subdivision will have, a formal cul-de-sac that's supposed to be there, and also one that's a little more designed to align with all the town standards.
And also, and I think one of the other issues is the paving standards.
Yeah, the paving
originally had been approved
exactly, yeah,
for the road to be paved. It's not, as far as I understand, property owners currently are perfectly fine with it not being paved. That's actually what started, and then we found the
so it
cul-de-sac
was
issue,
it was as one of the conditions of approval was that the entire roadway be paved, which wasn't actually a requirement for the private way road standards at the time, simply because the front section of Nissen Farm Lane is paved, so they wanted to carry that through. It was built just to town standards for a private way, which is just compacted gravel and whatever else, but no hot layer on top. So the proposal is to essentially remove that condition also and just have it built to the current town standards for a private way, which would just be gravel with no hot paving layer.
surprisingly straightforward. But
Yeah,
there's been a lot.
it seems like there should be something hidden, but we're really just trying to get this fixed as quickly as possible so people can get their building permits. Everyone can put this to bed, since everyone thought it was put to bed 7 years ago, but apparently it wasn't.
So there is a currently approved subdivision. What they're proposing essentially is to amend that subdivision
Plan.
subdivision plan. Yes, thank you. So that'll adjust some property lines, and then once the cul-de-sac is built, the paving standards will be removed. So what I've got here as far as like to like for the planning board to act on is first to see if the application is complete, and then the only real conclusion here is let's see, conclude the application. This is offered language. To conclude the application, which proposes to amend a previously approved subdivision for map 4, lot 31, sublot 11 through sublot 19, Back Meadow Heights, is consistent with the subdivision ordinance, and then vote to approve this application. I've got 4 conditions of approval here that I can read through, but we can kind of get to that once we address any of the board's questions, concerns, if you have any.
Just to clear up that, take in the back of my mind, I was around in 2018. I remember, which is shaky, that's my memory. That the hammerhead was suggested and recommended because a cul-de-sac would not allow proper sized lots. You did mention the lot lines have changed, so I assume that you've accommodated that particular issue.
Yeah, so what happened back then, to my understanding, and again, there's no recording of the 2018 meetings or anything, but there was just a concern about how the setbacks would be calculated within the lots since they all kind of wedged down to where it was. So having the hammerhead made it a little neater, but I think there's no substantive change here because really most of the cul-de-sac is actually within the boundaries of the hammerhead turnaround where it was supposed to be. So those existing lot lines really won't be greatly impacted. At most, you're talking about carving off like some small corners of those, and then the setbacks. The lots are already subject to like a 50-foot setback from that area to offset it. So any existing structures won't be impacted or anything like that. It wouldn't create any non-conformity as far as I'm aware.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Good question for you. Does the fire chief have to go look at this?
He was supposed to have gone out. I haven't heard.
I had gone out there with him months ago,
Right.
and the standards that we discussed, the subdivision plan ordinance doesn't set a standard for like a radius turnaround for a fire truck. So I found what I think is a common standard, which is a 25-foot internal radius for the road and a 50-foot external radius, which I discussed with Chief Roberts, and he said, yeah, that should be fine with that will accommodate the trucks they got and trucks that they assume that they would expect they might have, which probably has a tighter turn radius, will have a tighter turn radius. So I think we should be good on that.
Do they submit an amended plan
Yes,
with
that's
this information on it?
yeah, that's I shared that with there was one of the plans, so I shared the original subdivision. You provided an as-built, and then I provided the current proposed.
yeah.
Do you have?
I don't have a full-size copy. I
Okay.
believe so. A lot of this, sorry, this was supposed to be on the meeting last month, so a lot of this was submitted in April. I believe there should be full-size plans on file, right? You dropped those off, yeah,
Oh, okay.
at
Oh,
the town office. So
so it's probably
they-
just in the pile of other.
exactly.
drawings.
So they are here.
Okay.
Though.
Okay.
And they are in the online packet, the
Yes.
scanned version. So
Yeah.
they're somewhere in the town's possession.
That's no, and I shared them there in that package that I've given you. So yes, if you look at that, instead of a little hammerhead now, it'll be a cul-de-sac. Some of it is the property lines didn't move. There's easements that go onto some people's property, but basically the road will be legal. Let's say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, concerns, questions?
Satisfied here.
So should we make a motion that the application is
Well, yeah, you
complete?
sure. Yeah. Want that? You want to do that?
It's fine.
I'd like to make a motion that the application is complete.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? There you go. You got conditions.
Yeah, well, I got the conclusion of law, which what I would recommend is that you conclude the application is consistent with the subdivision ordinance.
Mhm.
That's my recommended motion.
So I make a motion that that we've decided that the application is consistent with the subdivision ordinance.
I'll second it.
And do we accept it? Yeah, all those in favor? All those opposed?
So the only other vote that I've got here is whether to vote to approve with conditions, or deny. I'm assuming you're to approve it with conditions, but let me read the conditions that I've got here that should go on the final subdivision plan. All improvements proposed under this application shall be completed and be confirmed to have been completed in writing by the code enforcement officer of the town of Damascotta no later than September 1st, 2025. No building permit shall be issued for any lots in the Back Meadow Heights subdivision until the code enforcement officer of the town of Damascotta has confirmed in writing that the construction of the turnaround has been completed in accordance with this approved subdivision amendment. Any change or modification to any aspect of the approved plan shall be considered an amendment to the plan and shall require approval by the board. Finally, all roads in the subdivision shall, this is the same one, the road has to remain private. I haven't heard anybody say they want to accept it otherwise, but that's the language that I just pulled from ordinance.
If I may, just on the September 1 deadline, so we anticipated originally that we'd get in front of the board last month. So if the board would consider just kicking that out to October, just to give us, the full construction season to get everything done. And I mean, it's relatively speaking, it's a small project. It should only take a couple weeks, but we have to sort out some easements and other things. And we want to make sure that we have enough time, since it's not just like completion of work, it's actually to code enforcement satisfaction. So we just want to make sure we have the leeway that we were anticipating.
Not up to me. What I will say is there are current property owners that are very anxious to get this completed.
And it's our intent to make sure that we do it as quickly as possible. We just don't want to run into a situation where we have to come back to the board to request some kind of extension. So we just want to.
I understand.
Yeah.
I don't see why you can't do it by September.
No.
Yeah.
What about the 4 months?
Why is we have to wait to get them?
Oh yeah, and I mean, so first let's deal with this. So you guys aren't interested in that?
What's that?
You aren't interested in extending it? I was just asking. Okay, that's fine.
Because we lost a month.
Yeah, for the board meeting, but
4 months.
okay, well, we'll do our best. And then on the building permit issue, I understand it's a standard condition of approval for the board to require, but with the understanding that people are anxious to get those building permits, I didn't know if the board would consider waiving that. We'd still be like waiving the requirement that no building permits be issued until the cul-de-sac is fully completed. Like, we're still obligated to do this within a specific time period, but it would just facilitate what the other property owners have been trying to do this whole time.
Which I do appreciate, but I think that the standard with any subdivision is that you don't get the.
And I appreciate that. It's just that since we're sort of just fixing the cul-de-sac and the remainder of the road seems to be largely acceptable to everyone, I just wanted to raise it for the board and see if the board would consider doing that as a way to alleviate some of the pressure on these existing lot owners. But
yeah, I mean,
I don't think we can do it.
Well, there's a way to get those building permits sooner than that, is do the work quicker.
And we're gonna do that as quickly as possible.
Done and the code enforcement and signs off on it, then you can issue the building permits.
No,
Right?
we have one more thing to do besides that. We can do these ones.
Yeah, we have to get some easements from the property owners who'd be affected and then start building. So we just didn't want to be the source of any more holdups. We fully intended to get this done as quickly as possible. It's just wanted to ask if the board would, give some relief to those property owners so that they're not continued to be held up here. But I understand if that's not the board's decision. I was just saying, I was asking whether the board would consider removing the requirement that all work be performed.
Just the last
Oh, just that we're fully intend to get the work done as quickly as possible. We just have to get some easements from affected property owners and then actually do the work and get the code enforcement officers sign off. So we didn't want to be the source of any further holdups for those property owners who are seeking building permits.
It did just occur to me that I did not include on here the condition that you sort out the property lines, you get the approval of whatever property owners.
Yeah, and
which I think it goes without saying, but I do want to just put that on there, that before you get a building permit for the road, you gotta make sure you get approval from, you get those easements, you get
Yeah.
control over the site, you know,
Yeah,
which I know.
I mean, we're gonna have to do that anyway in
Yes.
order to do, yeah.
But
Is it two landowners or?
So there's two landowners that are directly affected, and then there'll essentially be like a joint agreement between all the lot owners, because the way the properties were conveyed out, everyone has, shared easement rights to the full road. So since we're modifying the extent of the road, you just have to clarify that everyone gets the easement over the new road as it's approved, as opposed to, somebody who doesn't directly touch the cul-de-sac bizarrely has rights to a hammerhead that doesn't exist. So we're just sorting that out so that everyone has solid title and we can do the work.
I'm still comfortable leaving it with September.
Pretty hard to build in September to complete everything,
You'd like to see it go on longer?
No, I'd rather see it, if we can get the cul-de-sac in a week and a half, 2 weeks. Why would we have to wait till September?
It's not waiting till September,
Yeah.
a deadline of September
that's,
before.
Okay.
ideally, yeah, if it can be done next week, that would be better.
So,
But do we still have to come get approval once it's all done?
No,
Just from the CEO,
yeah,
And who's the code enforcement officer?
Mike Tatro. And he isn't gonna be checking for engineering, he just is gonna come out, confirm that the road is built, he might measure the 25-foot, 30 or 50-foot radius
sure.
and look out there and say, yes, this is, he's not an engineer, he's just gonna confirm that it's there, and then also put in writing that it has been done, and that way it will go into the town's records, and we will have a record that it has been completed. And then
And an as-built survey, right?
that's not required, that I don't think there's any requirement we get an as-built survey. What I would suggest is not taking the survey not taking more time, but
Yeah.
not taking the survey stakes out so that you can be, yes, this road is within the
area where it's
private
supposed to be.
right of way.
Yeah.
So the intention is that after today, you can move forward with whatever you need to. I mean, you gotta get a building permit from Mike Tatro to do the road work, but that should be no problem. And then you need Mike to confirm that it is complete once it's complete, and that should be it. I guess you gotta register the amended subdivision plan with the Registry of Deeds, but that,
Didn't take any time.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a 60-day window to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there needs to be a motion to accept
Can we lay out?
changes,
Yeah.
Sorry.
conditions of approval as.
Oh, do you want to accept okay, yeah, that makes
And you
sense.
added that one about the easements, even though it's a given.
Yeah,
Yeah, just so that it's clear, we're not approving the applicant to do work on someone else's property. Like, once you get the easements, then you can,
So you can just add that to this.
yes.
okay.
Can you guys just
Conditions
give
of approval.
can you just give me a clear list right now of all the steps that you'd like to see? Cause now I've gotta get a permit to do the work. Correct?
Yes, so
We're all right here. We still need a permit from somebody who's not in the room.
you gotta get a permit, any construction really that gets approved by the town goes through code enforcement officer, Mike Tatro. You need a permit that says you're allowed to build. This is just,
He wasn't there in 2018. He's not here tonight. Is he gonna know what's going on?
yeah, because I will give him the findings of fact and basically say, what his job is to make sure that all of those boxes are checked. The most important box, at least in this case situation, is the planning board's reviewed it and said, yes, there shouldn't be any other. He might ask some questions about erosion control, but it's really just at that point, it's like, yes, you can build it as long as you're following best practices.
So just so you guys know, I wasn't asking for more time for the construction end of things. It's all the paperwork that's gonna be done, that's all.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to have this meeting a month ago, and that's when the September 1 deadline was created. So the work can be done tomorrow with some shovels. It's a little 8-foot section on the wheel. On just one section of the outside diameter. So, as long as we can get the paperwork done.
So did you want to make a motion to adopt those conclusions, those conditions?
To approve the changes to the subdivision, subject to these conditions of approval.
Oh, yeah, so
Okay.
this is what I have here is to approve with conditions, the application which proposes to amend a previously approved subdivision for map 4, lot 31, sublots 11 through 19 Back Meadow Heights, subject to the conditions.
Exactly that.
Yes.
Seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay.
All
Who
those in
seconded?
favor?
I'm sorry, consulted.
I did,
Thank
Neil.
you. Thank you.
All those opposed?
No, not me.
You don't do the paper already.
Okay. Was that,
Yeah.
sorry, did you vote and I missed
Yeah,
it?
we voted.
You did.
Okay, and it was approved with conditions. Okay.
These guys to be able to build their houses.
Yeah, and we'll,
Here is
Yeah.
what I need though from you is that subdivision plan with these conditions. I will send you the conditions tomorrow. So you can put those on the subdivision plan. So that I'm gonna ask that you guys stop by. I'll let you know as soon as I got the plans, stop by and sign them.
Okay,
There should be 4 copies. 2 will go back to the applicant.
Yep.
2 they will register it with the registry of deeds. Once that's done, you should be able to pull a permit. I don't see any reason why that should go into, I mean, it could go into next week, but it should be quick, and then all you gotta do is build it. I mean, and get Mike out there to confirm. If I missed anything,
I don't think.
no, I think that,
Easements.
not getting the easements.
the easements, or it's a condition of approval.
Conditions.
yeah.
That's,
And what happens if it doesn't happen by October?
by September 1st.
We'll have to come back and get another approval.
We,
So we'll still be out of compliance. Will there be any sort of enforcement at that time?
at that point, I think that if we get there, that's gonna be it. If we get there, I'm gonna be not happy, and yes, I would think that violations would be in order.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your time. Appreciate it. We'll get on that. We'll get you that plan. Hopefully
I will
tomorrow.
get you the conclusions.
Awesome. Okay.
Or the conditions, whatever.
It's been a long night already.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey.
Second. Man, what else? What's next?
You okay?
Yeah, no, that's just a relief that we're getting through.
Must feel a little better after that.
It's been a long.
Yeah, I know that. I know
Anyway.
what that's for. I know. Believe me. All right, almost getting down there. 182 Bristol Road, Bryce, site plan review for new use.
So, yeah, there's a couple things. This is an interesting one. There is no construction proposed by the applicant. The first thing is, I think we got to figure out what the use is going to be, what it is in what it's going to fit under in the land use ordinance use table. Assuming we can figure that out, I'm assuming it's going to be a commercial use, which means all commercial uses have to go through site plan review, which may or may not be
So
practical.
where is this?
This is on,
182 Bristol Road.
is it just past where School Street and Bristol Road?
Across from Cottage Point.
Yeah, down there somewhere.
Yep,
Just
in a
before
little
the little
gully.
swamp, before Capitalities.
Is it?
Yep.
Well, some stuff going on down there right now.
Right across, yep. Red, is the house still red?
Yep, at the moment, yep.
Hopefully you won't need to come back to the planning board if you want to paint it, so.
That would be great.
Um,
I'll go first.
yeah, I think if you want to,
Sure. Yes, we bought the property in November. I do paint by step painting business. And I had it on the road going to local establishments, and I had a great little spot in the back of our barn / garage that I was able to convert into a little space to have events there. And so when I realized I needed to do that, he said I needed to come and check with you. And so when I talked to Michael, he said, this sounds like a little bit bigger than you just having people come over to paint. And it is a business. So he said that I need to give you this information that would explain exactly what I was thinking, what it would look like as far as lighting and safety and parking and how many people to expect and noise and those kinds of things. So that's what I had put together for you all.
you just, sorry, get some notes down.
She wrote faster than she talks faster than I wrote.
So
You want me to just give you, I mean, it's not.
as far as the use, what I have referred to it in here is a painting event business. We don't have, there's an assembly aspect to it, and we don't have quite a good use in the land use table that cleanly fits this. There's a residence there. And then the other two options of uses that I've got is either an art gallery or an artisan workshop. I don't know. I mean, there's not anything in the land use ordinance.
It's kind of like an artisan workshop.
Workshop.
Does that make, okay,
Yeah, I think that could work. Yeah.
that's okay. If that's what that is a conditional use in the residential land use district, which is where this is. So if the board feels that basically what the applicant's explaining, that use fits within the artisan workshop, then that's I was expecting something in there. Site plan review is applicable.
Because I would think that other artisans have like teaching moments where they have people and come and, yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
So, what I will say is there's two real conditions that the site plan review ordinance requires. One is certain requirements met, that the use requested meets all requirements of the ordinance, the site review ordinance, so that's one. And then the second one is that the effect is not adverse, which there is, health, safety, general welfare. I won't read the whole thing, but let's see. One question. Okay, so I'm just going through this is for non-residential use standards. This is a general standard for outdoor sale and storage. It says on lots within or abutting lots within the residential district, which this is, materials shall be screened from view from residential district lots by fence, wall, or painting.
I don't have any of
Do you have
that.
anything outside?
No,
Yeah, okay.
no.
So as long as everything stays inside, I think that.
Well, if I did, it would just be it wouldn't be big and ugly. It would just be like people painting on canvases on my picnic table.
Yeah, no, I
It'd be
think
like, there's nothing more that would happen at my house.
I think more like you're not storing paint or extra materials outside. If people are painting outside, that's.
Yeah. No, nothing big and.
Would there be extra lighting in the parking lot or?
We have unusually good lighting in our parking lot from the lighting of the Demerscott out right on Bristol Road. That shines right into my bedroom, which is why I have to wear a mask. And also we have some really good lighting right in our driveway that came with the home.
So is there any new lighting that you've put in or?
Just one over the entrance to the door itself.
Okay.
We had to put something in just where they all come in the back to the back way.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, the automobile parking standards, I'm not sure how exactly this is.
Yeah, what does
So
that say?
there's required off-street automobile parking. Planning board may reduce or waive minimum off-street parking space requirements if the applicant demonstrates that fewer parking spaces will be adequate. No parking may be located between the front property lines and primary building. There's no, that's, I think, right. So you haven't expanded your parking lot.
No,
And is the parking lot just in front of the garage, right?
Yeah.
Between the garage and the street, and then the house is off to the side, the main part of the house?
kind of.
The main entrance is not even facing the road. If you look at her drawing, that she just handed out there, that's the main entrance to the building is facing
The side.
towards Bristol and towards the swamp area.
Doors, yeah.
Oh, it's off of the kind of business doors on the side there.
Side, yeah,
Okay.
those are on the back.
So that's the standard is that automobile parking spaces, and it's the size, and even 9 by 20. How many parking spaces do you think you've got, or how many do you have?
Probably 10 on a good day. And most people do carpool when they come in groups, and I'm gonna make a big deal about that because I don't want anybody parking in the road, so.
Well, I think technically, if the parking in the road, that's,
That'd be a damn
If-
dangerous place to park.
Yeah.
well, but it's also, it's not on your property, so it's like if the town doesn't want them to park, then the town would say, no,
We
no
can't do that.
parking, but. And actually, the parking can be accommodated on or off site, so,
Okay,
but understood, it probably isn't the safest place to park.
You think you can get 10 in that parking area? And
I think so. Well, did you see my little, oh no, maybe I didn't give you that line.
37.5 by, well, 72, must take it all the way back, because it's not,
Yeah,
or is that to the front of the garage is 72 feet?
from the road to the garage itself. Oh, I can't remember what I wrote down. What, we measured it out. What does it say?
It says 72 feet, but I don't know if that goes all the way back, or if that's to the front of the garage, but I had 10 cars is,
It'd be a lot,
yeah, I think for that space, it looks like anyway.
yeah. That's what we figured, but it would be tight.
What's the ratio?
So that's the art, if we're going by art gallery standards, it's 6.5 per 1,000 square feet of art gallery space. Do you know how big the space is?
15 by 24.
The inside? Okay, so let's see. 14.
It's like a little over 300 and some.
60.
Wait. You need 2.1 parking spaces, I think is right.
Only 2?
It's 3, but
If you call it that.
yeah, as you said, it was
Wait a minute,
14
wait.
by 25, is that what it was?
I need 3 or I can only have 3?
You need 3.
Oh, no.
That's the minimum.
14 by 24 is a studio space. which is
Yeah.
336.
Yeah, I got 350 square feet, so 625. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
need 3 parking spaces. So,
That I have.
yeah, plus you need I guess it's like one per dwelling unit. So for the house, you need a separate one. So it sounds like you could probably get 5 parking spaces in there even.
Okay, yeah, I know I can get 5 and I've had 5 there, yeah.
So
Yeah,
then
people over.
I think that's, at least for my math, so 5 parking spaces sound good.
5 is all I'll be allowed to have?
No, that's the
Oh,
minimum that you have to have.
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I have that, yes.
Technically, you shouldn't go above, but
In this case, yes.
it's,
No, yeah.
so,
Thank you.
okay, so we're talking, okay. So we want to get into it. Art gallery, 6.5 per 1,000 square feet, which works out to about, plus the 1 residential works out to about 4 or 5 spaces. So as long as you can park 5 cars in there, I think that's good. Let me see what else. Are there any easements, deed restrictions, anything else like that that's relevant on?
I think so. And the deed's in there too, but,
Yeah,
no.
but I didn't see anything, so there's no other. Let's see. No district, site, building, structures, or objects significant in American history, architecture, archaeology, engineering, or culture. any sites like that? Is there any historically significant sites
No.
on your property you
No.
know of? Okay. Is there any reason that we would think otherwise?
No.
Right.
How how much water do you think your business is going to be using on a regular basis? I mean, do you use a significant amount of water? Okay.
No.
Are you on town water?
Yeah.
Oh, you're on town water. Great.
Not down sewer, okay.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the conditions that of approval of the ordinance requires is that during nighttime hours, when the activity is not occurring, exterior lighting at all commercial and other non-residential properties shall be, sorry, it's worded really, should be turned off.
It will be, yeah.
So that's going to just be a condition of approval on there.
And the only one that plays in effect to that is the one over their main entrance. The other one is for their house.
Right. I mean,
Right, so it's just that one light.
yeah. That's a little bit of a,
And nobody's on that side to, but yes, I wouldn't anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, it just requires it
Yeah.
as a condition and it's, so. There is, I can't imagine you're gonna be making a lot of noise. The ordinance does set limits for noise. It doesn't say it has to be a condition of approval. I don't imagine it's gonna be an issue for this use, but so do you have any interest in making a condition of the use or the approval? No, fair enough.
No rugby activities.
no more than usual.
Live bands.
Well, if you have if the residence has a party, that's a whole separate thing, right?
Okay.
You have,
That could happen any day now.
right, wow. The site distances going into and leaving the driveway, is there at least 360 feet in either direction
Yeah.
that you can see
Like,
when
yeah,
you're coming out?
yeah, I took pictures.
And is there, yeah, I mean, is there,
There really is, the vision, the visibility on that driveway is actually quite good. I agree that's a scary place if you're, but you can see quite clearly on both sides.
You can see to the top of both hills on
Yeah.
either side, either the down east or up top by Dr. A's old place. You can see the top of the hill on either one.
I drive a scooter and I have to get out of the driveway, so I can't have anybody coming either way, 'cause I can't get up the hill.
so if you're comfortable coming out of there with a scooter,
Yeah,
seems like a pretty fair metric. I mean, but the metric is 360 feet.
yeah, it's good.
Is convenient and safe emergency vehicle access provided? You're not building anything. I think there is a fire. I went to find where the nearest fire hydrant is. There's a fire hydrant.
You know, it's-
Top of the hill by down easter is one, and then the one the other way, almost up by Frank Avantagio's old place. So again, within 400 feet of either side of it.
Yeah, so,
They're gonna say the swamp.
so, and also this is like right off of the road, so a fire truck can get there,
Yeah.
or emergency vehicle can get there, I think.
Yep.
Reasonably. Does the proposed parking area provide safe, convenient, and efficient access for vehicles and pedestrians?
Nope,
Any reason to think otherwise? Parking we already addressed. Let's see, I said no pedestrian circulation is proposed under this application. My question to the board is that appropriate for the type and scale of the existing development and proposed use? I guess technically it's kind of mixed. I guess there's a walkway to the door from the parking area, so it's already existing.
Basically all tarred right up to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so is, I guess what is existing, is that pedestrian circulation, is that appropriate for the type and scale of the development
I
that's
would
there?
think.
Great.
Site distance is greater than 400 feet either way.
Okay, thank you. Is the board going to require the applicant complete a public facilities impact study?
No.
Figured.
I think I might have.
This is what's in the ordinance.
I know.
So the water quality, this is one that I don't know. what considerations are required around the disposal of paint into a septic system or anything? I mean, how much paint are you going through and are you feeling?
I'm not very much, and it's just water-based paint. It's not like it's oil-based paint. It's pretty dissolvable.
Okay.
I could put it in the swamp next door.
No, definitely don't want that. I want to make sure, I assume if you're not on sewer, that if you're disposing of paint.
And I'm not disposing of paint. It's just to clean the brushes.
Yeah,
They're putting
right.
the paint on the canvas. No, we're not
I'm
disposing.
going to your septic
Yep.
but I don't know if that's, is there,
It's non-toxic dissolve.
that, right, so
Yeah.
if that's,
Water-based, yeah.
She owns her own septic system, it's,
Done me.
to fix it too.
yeah, no, totally. But I don't know. I don't want something from paint leaking into the water table and
Don't put it in the swamp. Okay.
so, we talked about screening provided between the proposed use and the neighboring residential lot. Can you see anything from where the commercial space is? Can you see your neighbor's house?
No, not right now.
So
No.
there's screening.
There's natural screening there, and then the closest house is a driveway away from that.
Mhm.
So
And
we're
it-
comfortable with the screening that exists. Okay. Okay, the only other thing that I've got, I don't think you haven't paid an application fee yet, have you?
I thought I did that day, no?
Did you, okay, you may have, I'll check. I've got a
Maybe that was. the
commercial
sign.
application, $30 is a conditional use review, $100, site plan review, $50. So the whole thing's $180. But I can check if you,
I did not pay that.
okay, well then,
Okay.
might have some more to pay before you can pull a building permit, but hopefully that's it. So we can connect. I'm actually going to be here tomorrow if we can
Okay.
coordinate on that.
Is that a one-time fee?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yes. Okay, so then I think. And I'm going to remove this condition. This is all improvements proposed under the application shall be completed and confirmed to have been completed prior to issuing of a building permit, but there's no improvements to be had here.
No.
So the only thing that no, that was a subdivision. I think that's it. Wait, there was one. Sorry.
You're not building anything, are you?
No.
No.
Why don't you get a building permit?
Oh,
Yeah, why do I need the?
Oh, you
yeah.
need before you get a use permit. I'm sorry.
I thought it was the $180 I was gonna discuss with you after, but what were the fees again involved with that?
$100 commercial application,
Yeah,
$100 condition use, and 50 site plan review.
which,
Was that what you guys just did?
yes, that was all small scale residential uses are traditional uses.
I just didn't know if you had to come out. You don't have to come. out.
No, that's it. That's it. There was one condition I had in here. Urban district. Oh, during the nighttime hours, the lights for the commercial lights will be off.
Yeah.
So that's the only kind of real specific, application specific condition. There's others that are boilerplate that I can share with you, but I don't think that they'll impact your application. So that's all I've got. Happy to move forward with actions if the board wants to take action on.
Pretty straightforward.
That's why I didn't see it.
Do you want to find the application to be complete?
I'll make a motion, we find the application complete.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed?
All right, then I've got two conclusions of law here. One is, I guess you could do them at the same time if you wanted to. I have them separately. One, to conclude that the application is consistent with the land use ordinance. And the second one, to conclude that the application is consistent with the site plan review ordinance. Both of which we essentially just went through.
Get a motion on that.
I'll make a motion that we find that it's the conclusion of the law as written meets the standard for both the land use and the site plan review.
Have a second? All those in favor? All those opposed?
All right. The only condition for any approval, if you want to grant approval, would be during nighttime hours when the activity is not occurring. Exterior lighting at all commercial and other non-residential properties are required by the board to be turned off.
Make a motion that we accept the plan with the conditions of approval.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor? All those opposed? There you go.
Thank you. So I just give you the, go ahead.
Well, tomorrow I'll make sure that we get the fees sorted out, and then Mike Tatro will be able to give you a use permit.
Okay, great.
Or
Thank
at
you
least
so
a letter
much.
saying use is good, but we can.
Formalize that tomorrow. Okay, great. Thank you very much, all of you. Appreciate it.
Okay, last but not least.
Yes.
The vines, or the.
That a little brief, that a little long, sorry about
Damascotta Green. My name is Shannon Parker. I'm here to talk about the application I submitted for a communal green space on 0 Vine Street, which is located in town. I am under contract for purchase and sale under my name and assigns, which means I'm raising money for the property to be bought by the community. I'm not using private money to do this, so I'm here to discuss what we need to do to make that happen, if you guys allow it to happen. I submitted a full application in April for the May meeting. Don't know if you had a chance to read it. I can start with questions or I can dive in. Depends on your knowledge of the project and where you want to start.
I think the whole thing's great. I don't, with the funding, do we do something different?
No, I mean, I think it's basically, it's gonna be. I think you should look at it as a private open space.
For sure, we're purchasing the property privately from a private owner. And then in 2020, if we can make that purchase, we will open a 501c3. And then that will be the nonprofit that runs this green space. But we're on a really short time frame, and so we'll have a fiscal agent to handle that as a nonprofit. So the donations that come in will be tax deductible for community members. Yeah.
So yeah, if it ends up that you want to make it and I know that the intention was to at some point potentially make it a public park. That's a whole separate thing that we may or may not deal with when we get to that.
Yeah, so what I'm here to discuss today is it will be a private green space. I think it's really important to say that it won't be a park. A park implies swing sets and a lot of infrastructure, maybe some bathrooms, trash receptacles, all the things you'd find. This would be a extensive trail around the property for recreation and relaxation, and then a small green space that you'd find typically in a town common in a New England town. Something we don't have here, but I'd like to change that. And this property lends itself nicely to that because it's essentially an L shape, and one section of it is quite wet and parts of it are designated wetlands, just the corners. But we would treat that as wetlands. And then there's a higher portion that could be used for more like outside art classes or taekwondo or throwing a ball with a child. Walking after hip surgery, right? Like all the things that we need to do intergenerationally. So just to really be careful that we're not calling it a park, I think that conjures something different in our minds. So it's a green space.
Right.
A little bit, it's like a land trust trail with a little bit of common grass or green space.
Yeah. The use that this looks like it falls under that I see is outdoor recreation passive. And so that is, and we discussed it a little bit, that's allowed in C2. It's not allowed in, I think it's allowed in C2 and rural. This is only slightly odd because, do you mind if I?
Yeah, sure.
Because,
Please.
and this is, I've got the zoning map, but this is probably the easiest way.
Yeah.
If you look at where the zoning map lines are, basically from here to here, no, to here, sorry. It's like a line. This is the boundary between C2
Hmm.
and residential, which we probably need to fix. Because why you wouldn't want open space, you know, whether it's passive or not, anywhere in town, I think is
We don't allow it.
not in residential, not in C
It's
one.
crazy.
Yeah. So, right,
It's a-
just, there's a weird, this area, there's like 3 zones come together and the lines are actually pretty fat on the zoning map, which I've got here. If you want to look at it. It probably was not really given a second thought because this was probably associated with Coastal Marketplace, and the properties that actually front onto Vine Street are associated with residential, and then
Some of those are C1 as well.
yeah,
So
there's,
it's a tricky spot.
Yeah.
Being in this section of town.
but I think that with what you're trying to do, that at least right now, like you're considering at least that part of the parcel might be used for residential use.
Yeah, this section here.
Yeah, and so, you know, now there's a sliver on the way that this is drawn where it's
Mhm.
the use probably wouldn't.
You're saying something like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
at least at the moment.
Yeah.
Because I also want to put this in context of we need to fix our ordinances, and that's probably a good, well, whether the zone moves or not, passive recreation is probably something we at least want to allow
Mhm.
beyond just the C2 and rural, I think. So if it's a little weird right now, hopefully we can iron some of that out. Not tomorrow, obviously, but that's one weird issue on this. Is there anything else maybe that you wanted to touch on, or I'm happy to go through my findings, or if you have any thoughts or
I
questions?
think I'd like to know if you read the packet that I sent in, if I can just highlight that. It would help if I highlighted some things from the packet. Yeah, really, the proposed use here is minimal. There would be no infrastructure. We know there's a GSB easement that goes from, it was introduced in 1986, I believe. It goes from Main Street all the way through to Chapman. We would not be building anything over that. We would not obstruct it in any way. Our trails would work in conjunction with GSB to make sure those are all valid, kept upright, and accessible. Michael and I also discussed that the DEP is also looking to get an easement on this property in order to properly maintain the culverts, and this is the drainage from Days Cove, and it's really important that the silt is cleared from those lines, and I think it's been derelict for a long time, and so that obviously has important impact for like coastal resilience and rising water. So that would be something we would introduce to the property. It doesn't currently exist, but again, no infrastructure to be a barrier to those easements. We would be working with, you know, people who do this for a living. Like we reached out to Midcoast Conservancy, and they're very interested in helping us with our land use plan. If we can buy this property, we have people with skill sets helping us to manage natural wildlife corridors, invasive plant species, reintroducing native plant species to try to balance not only the land better, but the waterway. So yeah, just really leaning on the talent that exists around here. There is a current walkway from Chapman. It comes through the back of the Damascotta Historical Society. I wrote in my proposal that that is not in wetlands. I think it was incorrect, and that does go through wetlands. That's something people have been using for a very long time. We need to look at how we can, again, if this property can be acquired by the community, how can we really look to like maybe elevate that pathway so that we are protecting the wetlands and keeping this corridor for people to walk through that they depend on.
Where is it on that map?
Yeah, it's so this is the Historical Society here, and it kind of cuts straight down into a coastal marketplace. This would be Chapman here. It cuts through, and it's about maybe 3 feet wide. Someone's been mowing it for a very long time. Youth use it after school. There's a lot of traffic on that walkway. But again, changing the plant around so that we introduce native plants that can absorb more of that water that have been harmed because this property hasn't been kept up, will just naturally increase the everything about that land, right? And water. The lighting is proposed to be really low. Everything about this is minimal. So solar lighting only, 6 feet in stretch. So every light has 3 feet on both sides. It would be a dawn till dusk use park, and that would be dependent on the seasons, right? It would change for every season. It would be pack in, pack out waste. There would be no receptacles, really low maintenance. We don't have parking for this project. There are many, I think, inventive ways we can find parking, and we're not looking to just solve parking for this project. We're talking to local businesses on Main Street. We're talking to Rising Tide across the street. We're working with the Sidewalk Coalition folks, and we're looking at ways to be really strategic to not do this project in a vacuum, but to really solve some problems that we have with parking downtown and how we can maybe absorb that on the other side. But we're not going to put any paved parking in.
Not to interrupt you, but that's a huge concern of mine
Yeah.
of multiple projects that have been proposed for that road, and parking being the main concern of why people didn't want it there, and
Sure.
traffic. Regardless of how minimal you build this, people are still gonna have to get to it, right? And I think realistically, to think that they're gonna go to Coastal Marketplace, if that's allowed by the owner of Coastal Marketplace, or wherever they go, they're gonna have to park on Vine Street, and that's already, as we've heard several times, a very narrow road that is dead-ended, obviously, as you well know, you live there. That is a concern that we have to take in consideration of this, of someone is going to park on Vine Street to use this
Yeah.
open space.
Well, I mean, oftentimes in village or small city, residential areas, you have little pocket parks, that are playgrounds or whatever. And there's usually not parking by them. People walk to them. There's a huge number of people.
I understand that. I understand the concept of it, and I don't disagree with it. I'm just saying it's going to happen. People are gonna park on that road, and the town's gonna get complaints that there's people parked there. They get them already.
For people parking on Vine Street?
But yeah, being crowded and whatnot, they get them now. I don't say that this is gonna cause more of that problem. It's something that we need to think about and have in there, because people are going to drive down Vine Street. If I was going to use that, that's where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna drive down Vine Street and park somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm.
Yeah, for sure. Vine Street's tricky, right? The end of Vine Street, the egress for Vine Street is a 6-point egress, right? We have 129, northbound, southbound Route 1. We've got a Busy Bath parking lot. We've got Church Street and Vine Street all converging right next to that light. It's a tricky, tricky street. And the sidewalks are completely crumbled, so it's really difficult to actually measure the width of the street. But I would say it's maybe 3 feet wider than 2 typical cars. It's tight. I think that signage and messaging will be important. I think that parking is an issue throughout the town. We see it downtown. I also see a huge number of residents who are walking, and so they're dining downtown or they're shopping at the co-op, they're getting lunch, they're shopping at Coastal Marketplace, and then this is a place for them to go and take that loop. Or some people walk from Glidden all the way down through town. They take this route through Chapman and to Coastal Marketplace and come around. I was in Boston last week, and I was walking through the Rose Kennedy Beltway, which is just a green space in the center of town. There's no parking. It's just a green space with art installations. And this is, if you're in the space, you can walk the space, and you're getting there because you're a resident or you're a visitor, you're staying close by in some way. We have a lot of parks where you can drive to enjoy. They exist at our local schools, and they exist in, land trusts have nice trails that you can drive to and park to. This is different. It's a different concept. It's an in-town walkable space. But we'll have to be careful with our signage for sure. And I think that I don't know, I'm an optimist when I wake up every morning, so I think there's there's 30 to 40 empty parking spots every day at the back of Coastal Marketplace. There's an empty building that isn't being rented. And I think there's a lot of room there to get a tax, for the person who owns that property to get a tax break, to give us use of that property and those parking spaces. So we're thinking dynamically about how to solve this problem, not just for this park, but for the town. What we have to absorb for people. Cars aren't going away. We're not buying less of them. But I don't want to throw the project out for lack of parking because it's a really great in-town space for this kind of green.
And I don't want to see that either, but
Yeah.
when it happens and there's parking complaints, they're gonna come to the town and then they're gonna go
Yeah.
back and look at the planning board. You approved this. We've
Yeah.
been there many times on different projects.
Yeah,
That you allowed this to happen, knowing
Yeah.
that there was no parking. So that's why I'm saying we just gotta take that into consideration. I don't mean it in any negative way
Sure.
against your project. I think it's great. If there was a way that you could make everybody go to the Coastal Marketplace and park there that are gonna use it. And I understand most of you people are going to walk to this area to start with. But there are going to be some that we've gotta deal with, and I'm just trying to throw that out there now to avoid.
I think it's valid and I appreciate you bringing it up, and I assume that there's some level of public comment after we do this presentation. I don't know if people from Vine Street can come. I know that I'm the largest abutter to this project. My neighbor across the street is the other largest abutter to this project. He is in favor of it. He came, worked a long day and left, and I just said if I can say that in the meeting. And his view is if our choice is between 40 cars coming up and down the street every day because we have 20 units of housing, versus pedestrian walkway down Vine Street and or one or two cars having to turn around, they're literally turning around in my driveway. I've never called in a complaint to the town. I make parking available during Damascotta Pumpkin Fest. Like, I understand that as a person who lives in the town village, that people are gonna park in front of my home. It's not a problem for me. The mailman can't deliver mail to our road without turning around in my parking lot, my driveway. I think there's problems that exist with Vine Street, like my house right now, the way Vine Street is set up, if we had a fire in the middle or back of our home, there's no way a fire truck could reach that, right? Like, we have problems at the end of Vine Street. I think we can be really creative about how to fix some of those things. And I think signage for this project can go a long way.
That raises something I think we discussed, which was at the end of Vine Street, that potentially somehow incorporated into this project could improve. You're not gonna get the cul-de-sac back there, but turn around and the resolution,
Yes.
is it just kind of fades out?
It literally just goes into dirt, like the whole street is eroded into dirt. So we'd like to really shore that up and get some sort of turnabout that is safer for delivery vehicles, emergency vehicles, resident vehicles. It's very unsafe right now.
And I also
And tight.
think, yeah, oh yeah, no, I mean, Vine Street is I know is a very old street, and I think that some of the concerns that you're talking about, because it's not under your control. So I understand what you're saying. There's not really anything I think the applicant or any of the property owners there can do to manage the parking. I think the town's gonna have to get involved in it. Honestly, wouldn't be that, in theory, complicated. Anything through municipal government obviously can be complicated, but like we could make it so it's 2-hour parking or resident permit parking or something like that. I mean, we'd have to sort that out, but that's probably something that's something that I've talked with Andy about, that like we need to get our arms around a bit better, is like the management of our right of ways in terms of parking, because for the town to not manage them and then say like, well, your project or someone's planning is going to be an issue. I think that we can sort some of these issues out to make it maybe more manageable for any applicant, any project. Not to say that all the things that you're saying aren't totally relevant. It's just, and it's kind of like what came up with Sandpipe Road, where it's like, once you get into the public right away, now all of a sudden I think the town's going to have to figure out some ways to be part of that solution. Not that it hasn't been, but we can tell people, no, you can't park on this side of the street or that side of the street. Residents can't.
Yeah.
So
I think I want to return back to, like, we have many parks and community spaces like that are connected to businesses like the Y, nonprofit agencies where people are parking there. They're driving to Nobleboro to go to a park. They're driving to school and after hours to go to a park. This is more like a beltway, a loop, a pedestrian loop. So people dining downtown or shopping downtown, buying groceries downtown, they can walk through this space up through Glidden and around. We, our runners, our teams from Lincoln Academy can run down. They can be in a space that doesn't have cars for the first time, right in their whole loop. We never have a space in our town where people are protected from traffic, and this would provide that. I think that it's a leap of faith, right? Like we haven't done it before. I know the ordinances don't exist. I think it's something that could be really beneficial, but it does lend itself toward pedestrian use for people who are parked there for other reasons. But it also, we know the health and wellness that's improved by walkability, right? If somebody's going downtown to eat a dinner and then takes a green space loop, that's beneficial for everybody. We're all outside in community and there's health and wellness involved. But I can't speak to the parking.
So what do we need to do?
So,
Has anyone talked to the marketplace?
yes, well, I have spoken with them. A couple of things. One, have you spoken with the Historical Society? I know we talked about
Yeah,
possibly.
there's someone here
Oh.
in,
Yes,
yep.
yeah, she came over and gave a presentation to us.
Yep.
And, our biggest concern, of course, is that pathway, what is our liability issue? And, I don't, I'm getting a little negative with that, using our parking lot for parking too. And the other thing I wondered, Shannon, is that derelict house next to the Historical Society, does that have a little strip of land that runs parallel along our border?
I'm not sure.
'Cause I saw on some town map that it looked like there was, so I don't know, and if that's the case, then it would be Historical Society property, then this other little strip, and then,
I don't see it.
okay. All right,
I do
so,
not see it.
so then the Historical Society as the other concern was, is the corner of our parking lot gonna be one of the entrances? Is that gonna be?
Well,
Because it's just this, it's just this whole path that people have used forever and we don't maintain it or anything like that. We're happy, we think that the park is a great idea. We're just concerned about the Historical Society. We don't wanna, provide parking, that's what I'm getting from my members, and we're concerned about liability using that as an access point. The other thing I'm gonna say before I leave is, I think Shannon is right in the concept that this is not a destination park. People are not gonna drive, say, oh, I'm gonna drive to this park. It's pedestrian, and there are a lot of walkers in Darren's Garden.
So I can't speak specifically, but when we spoke, I think that at least right now, it's informal. I think that, so it sounds to me like, at least what you're presenting is still maybe informal access exists. So the planning board probably isn't gonna think like, okay, great, there's access from, the planning board probably shouldn't consider the access from the historical.
No,
It's not at the-
it's not in my application at all. In fact, it says if this property can be required, there will be discussions with the adjacent property owners to see if there is an access point.
Yeah.
And one of the things community members are very concerned about maintaining is that pathway that they have used for a very long time. Now, there hasn't been liability discussions about that before. The land has changed hands many times. I don't know how long the Historical Society has been in that building, but I think fairly recently. Yeah, right. So those discussions would have to happen after purchase. And I have said in my application, I can't promise any of that. I can only promise that we will have like dynamic discussions with everybody who has some skin in the game, right? Like, and private citizens or a society have the right to say no, and we go somewhere else. But we are a vibrant downtown. We know that communal efforts matter, and we'll find a way, I think. I just don't have it today.
Maine law has a provision that protects landowners that allow access, right? You know.
There is, yeah, and
That
would be good for us
to know
that.
yeah,
That's a,
Yeah.
like a key part of,
Yeah.
yeah. So hopefully. some-
Specifically to access green space,
Yeah.
right? So, right,
So,
That's really sort of
Yeah.
what my members are thinking about is like liability. And the parking, I don't think the members are gonna go for allowing parking
Yeah.
down there.
you know, my hope was that maybe, ADA parking, maybe you might put ADA parking like for
You
two
know,
spots or
it's-
something, but
It's certainly something that I can bring up to the members and the board.
yeah, no, and that's,
But
it's.
just wanted to.
but that's way down the road.
yes, these are conversations that can happen in the future. It's nice that they're open now. They've been lovely to receive this and they're championing this. This is right out their backyard. Their backyard looks over this wetter property and then it's coastal marketplace. You know, what we're proposing is to really build a green curtain to improve people's sightline, to improve the noise that comes from the 18-wheelers that park at Yellowfront and run their engines all night to warm their cabin. The lighting over there is intense. We are trying to buffer that for neighbors, not
Yeah.
violate in any way
One of
with
the-
light or sound.
Yeah, I've been worried about sort of the porosity, like the residential neighborhood is very porous with the commercial district. And the quality of life was really impacted by the development of Business Route 1, big time. And,
Yes.
you know, with noise and more lights and everything, and this will help. a little bit.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think that it's interesting because there's not a lack of parking spaces in that area.
There certainly is not.
It's just whose parking spaces are they?
Right.
So, and I have spoken with Coastal Rivers, Coastal Marketplace, the property owner there, originally about the apartment complex there, and they were perfectly pleasant, but there was no access sorted out for possible
Yeah.
parking. I don't know if this is a whole different conversation that we might want to have with them.
I'll have that conversation. I plan on presenting something that's really mutually beneficial, which is they have a vacant building that they're not getting a monthly lease on. They can write that off as a tax deduction if they're giving it to a nonprofit, and then we get the parking spaces that's associated with that. Again, these are conversations that have to happen after the purchase of the land and community support for it. But we're abutting 30 to 40 empty parking spaces a day. I just think that we have to be able to find a way to connect that. That's mutually beneficial, right? For the owner of Coastal Marketplace.
Yeah.
And for the betterment of the town, because they will win too, right? If people are coming to this park, they're gonna go get their snacks and their lunches at any of those businesses that can then pay the
Yeah.
Jordan Bay investments, right? Their rent, it's symbiotic more than in isolation, in my mind.
Yeah. So one thing,
Yeah.
I had been meaning to get through this application much faster than, or much sooner than this, and I apologize for not getting any comments earlier. I guess one of the questions I have for you is, what do you need, like, we could potentially, or the planning board could potentially grant approval of this use there, conditioned on a site plan being developed and brought back to the planning board. Now, and I say that because I know that I assume some of the process that you're going through is, are we allowed to do this? Does this work? And
Yeah.
is it worth even taking a step down there before you start getting money together from investors and community partners and actually putting together like an engineered site plan?
Yeah.
Which I think makes sense kind of just in the way that projects work out. Our ordinance right now doesn't really allow for that. And there are a lot of issue lighting, and I know the lighting is minimal, but our ordinance. But, so, just as I've been kind of trying to rack my brain, like, how do you move forward without moving forward?
Like approve the concept?
Essentially, you basically say, yeah, the use can go there, but we need a full
Let me
site.
point something out. It's privately owned, they can do whatever they wanted to it. They can put in path, they can put in rocks, they can put in whatever they want to do without a permit.
If when I also was thinking this.
Okay, so they can just do whatever they want.
If it's a residential property, yeah.
2 years down the road, they go, oh, I'm gonna give it this nonprofit. We don't even have to do nothing.
Yeah. Right.
Be nice for us to give it
I'm just saying.
We just we can't get donor funds through the door without it being assigned to a nonprofit. So it will have to be purchased by a nonprofit
So.
from a private owner.
Yeah,
Do we have
So
to
it's a
clear
little
up the
tricky.
property line of the zoning lines before we do anything?
well, my thinking was if that was something that the board wanted to do, and I actually think that Jonathan's suggestion might be the easiest thing for you. You can't, I don't think the board,
I'm not gonna act on it tonight anyway.
well, I don't think the board could at any point now, next month, whatever, approve the use on the other side of that zone line, kind of towards, in the lot where you're considering a
Residential.
residential,
Mhm.
which I don't think.
I just need to see the red line, I think, of like where the split is, and
Yeah.
then we're nimble enough where we can change up a plan.
Yeah, I don't think it would mess you just have to kind of straighten one of your paths out.
Yeah, if we have a little bit more residential area, we've got that space to create a turnaround for a really problematic street. We have a chance there to correct some ills that exist.
Yeah.
So that doesn't seem like a problem to me. It seems like an opportunity,
So,
but I'd need to see the red line.
yeah, and I've got it here, and
Yep.
I can show you, I will tell you, it's not very clear because the lines are like in a small map, but
Yeah.
I think I can get I think you'll see what I was saying.
So yeah, I think at this hour, it's a long day for everybody. I think I just need to know next steps. I think I need to know if there's general approval on the board. I've never done this before. You guys have never done this before for this kind of project. Can we meet in the middle? Is this worth moving forward on? Are there huge concerns that I need to go back and consider and
I don't think there's
Present.
huge concerns. There's some technicalities maybe, but I think overall, the concept would be a benefit to the town. I mean, do people agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yeah. I definitely.
And say that the comprehensive plan does call. It doesn't align exactly with this, but that area there, because it is undeveloped, it's green, where it drains out underneath Main Street into Days Cove and the tidal pond that's there and then out into Days Cove as, an area that has a lot of opportunity for conservation and open space value.
I think in the comprehensive plan, it specifically says that this has, extreme conservation value,
Yeah.
right?
Right. I think
This particular
yes,
property.
but so as far as my understanding, I think that this does align pretty well with the comprehensive plan. So I think that one thing is we need to get a site, like a full site plan together, and we can talk more about like, even the paths are technically structures, especially when they're within shoreland. It's
Like an engineered site plan, is that what we're talking
no,
about?
and I don't think that we want to require engineered site plans. When you start to get close to water, that might be a thing. Honestly, a landscape plan might be. And we can talk about like what should be on there, what shouldn't be on there.
Different than what I've already provided.
Yeah, I think because there are some things on there that it's like, well, and I know it was to kind of show like, oh, this is gonna be open space,
Mhm.
can be programmed, but it's like, it's not, I don't think you're officially requesting that the board like approve the round.
No, there, yeah, I understand.
So that's one of the things that we can work out, but and I don't know how to apply them.
Are you saying that you want to see like specific spot, the place where the path will be?
At least generally, because there's. Do you not want to see? Because when I'm looking at the ordinance, it's like structure, that's structure. Even, and I know some of this is like furniture, like benches,
Well, so sorry, just to reduce confusion here, these are just planting areas. Like these are benches that can be removed. These are just to show, I mean, these are just the graphics available on a computer.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily permanent structures at all. Like this could just be a bird garden without a seat and just showing you is an experiential space. It's not anything like structurally.
Yeah.
So did Coastal Rivers get approvals to build their paths?
That conversation has come up. I don't, yeah,
They
did
did.
they? I don't think they came for site plan review, did they?
No, they came in here, they wanted to continue a path from the Freeman Fields all the way up to the under the overpass, following the river up through all the way to connect into the, you know, the main, the old
Yeah.
farm.
They did.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just talking about. That hasn't
Initially.
been built yet. I'm talking about the path that they just built, you know, over to the whaleback from Round Top.
That's
I think
where,
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
now, that
I
must.
think you're talking about the ADA path,
Yeah.
the wider path and the existing, and then this is the newer path, maybe.
That's,
Oh, well,
I don't work
okay.
for Coastal River, so.
but
That's just. I
But I
wanna,
don't remember this much rigmarole to do it either, though.
yeah, I don't, yeah, it's, why is it such a big deal?
one of the things I'll say is, and I understand, like. I think a lot of this stuff may have been glossed over. Like I look at this, if it's in the ordinance. You don't have a choice, you gotta follow it.
Right.
It's not. So there's some things that don't necessarily make sense to come to the planning board for, but the ordinance says it's coming to the planning board, so I bring it to the planning board.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that I need to fix, which is separate. I will wrap this up.
So she wants something from us.
Well,
She wants like a sense of the board. You know, like thumbs up or what?
I don't know. I need next steps. I do want to say that I have requested to forego stormwater management plan, erosion and sediment control plan, state and federal permits, phosphorus impact report. We're not building anything. We're not changing the natural landscape significantly in any way. And if you ask me to come in here and tell you what materials we're using, what porous materials we're using for the trails, I will do that. I can say at this point, we're working with a team of naturalists who, this is what they do. They make sure that anything that's moved or impacted is cared for,
I
right?
think that's the plan that Michael's talking about of having, that talks about all of that stuff. I
Yeah.
think we definitely gotta have that.
and that's what I'm trying to. What I figured was like, I assume you don't have that, and you're not gonna have that for maybe a little while.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could have it. We're in a tricky situation where we're under a purchase and sale agreement. There's a timeline on that. I need to know if we can purchase this, if we can collect the pledges that we've had from community members to buy this property. Because the town of Damascotta says, yes, this is an opportunity and an asset we want to have in our town. Knowing that our intention on every level is minimal impact on the environment and to actually improve a derelict property.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Technically, we really don't have anything to act on.
Well, we've got an application.
Yeah.
There are there's some information that I think the board needs if they're gonna approve, just approve the application. This is where, the question of like, is the use good there? I guess we could do not even a straw poll, but like, does the board feel here? We could do kind of an informal, is the board comfortable with this use here? And does that give you anything worth moving forward with?
I feel like that if that's all we can achieve tonight, that's significant.
Okay.
It's not nothing. It's huge, I think.
The other, if you wanted to entertain a more formal yes, then it would possibly be a conditional approval that we still need a site plan, we being the planning board, still need a site plan. And the condition of the approval will be, you need to bring us a site plan and it still has to get approval from the board. But essentially all the planning board would be saying is like, yes, passive recreation, outdoor recreation, passive is allowed here. You need to meet the site plan review.
I would love that. I mean, that sounds great to me. I don't know. You guys.
But those map lines still don't allow that. So you can't, I'm not gonna commit to anything tonight, knowing that those lines are clearly say that it can't be in that area
That's-
until she comes back with a different plan showing that it's not there. We wouldn't do this for any other project.
No, well, what I was gonna say is you would say only for the areas within C2. You wouldn't provide it for the area.
Correct.
Part of the parcel that's in.
If she has enough wiggle room, she can move the
That's fine, then
lines.
show that to us.
Maintain
That's what I'm
the.
saying.
yes.
We
We
wouldn't,
can do that.
we wouldn't do 4th and 35 Main Street without having something down there. You've been pickier than that on some of these projects. So we can't straight face say that we give our blessing to move forward to that. That's a chance she has to take of go buying that property or not buying it. That's not up to us.
No, you're right. I want to.
So do I.
I
but we
understand,
can't.
and you're right, it should be my job telling you, no, you can't, you gotta, but.
Yeah, so let's move forward with me figuring out, you informing me where the lines are. And then me presenting that addition to the packet and anything else you might need.
Yeah.
Is that a good place to
And
land?
then the next step would be us giving conditional approval to the,
Well, I guess if the next step is you wanna move forward to that kind of formal conditional approval that the use can go where we would like it to go. But we still need site plan, and
Right.
now normally we don't do that either, I mean, we did it essentially with,
oftentimes
Schooner.
people that come in with a purchase and sale agreement. Well, I mean, we have that happen all the time.
And honestly, I don't think it's all that wild to say like, yes, the use is approved, what you're actually gonna build, you have to come back for site plan review. Because that is typically how people wanna know, like, can I put some apartments there? Yes, okay, great. Now, let me figure out how to actually fit them in there. But our ordinance doesn't really allow for that currently, so if that is agreeable to the planning board, we can, I'm happy to work with Shannon to work towards that, or would the planning board prefer to approve the use when we get the site plan together? Which I know is gonna be a ways off and is not, I think, what you had in mind, and I'm sure not really what you want, but.
It just runs contrary to the way we're trying to purchase this with community funds for a community use, but I understand that that's outside of the realm of like a private purchase for private property and private use,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, we're just stuck in the middle a little bit.
And what I will say is.
But again, I wake up every day as an optimist, so I see a way through this. What, if you need something from me, I will do my best to bring it to this board.
Well, if you provide a new map with the C2, zone line on it, you know what I mean?
And is that,
And then in the future, if that line gets changed,
Right,
there's,
yeah,
there's a process to change that line.
so would the board be comfortable with granting conditional approval based on a map like that? Not to actually build anything, but essentially to like establish the use, and then the applicant would come back with a site plan that, to go through the actual site plan review.
We could certainly say that it fits in the allowable space at that point.
Yeah.
That's the
Is that-
first step.
Okay, so if that's, I'm not saying you have to, I guess what I don't want to do is start down that path and come back and then, no, we can't do this. Not that you're set, I just want to, if it's a non-starter, good to know now, but at least if you consider it, then I'm happy to work towards that.
We're very playable, always been playable.
Yeah, I think
That works.
it's a good plan.
Okay, good.
Hey, do you understand?
I understand I'll be talking with Michael about where the lines are and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
And
and
I'll be back in front of you hopefully
Yeah.
next month
And then we can
with everything.
give
you
you something.
Yeah.
More substantial.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great outcome. And I appreciate the time that you put in for the town of Damascotta across the board, everything that you guys do. And the late hours that you keep for this. It's no small commitment and thank you.
Appreciate all the work you've been. putting into this.
Thanks.
It's pretty, it's very, it's good.
I had two just annual reports where I was sitting outside and this is what the field looks like. Right now, like not right now, but in about a month, it's gonna look like this. And I do wonder if this picture is actually taken there. And then this is from your annual report in 2021. And this is the end of Vine Street right here. So it's just cut off. And this would be where your community green space might be, which can draw young families to the area, can keep older residents moving, right? Like we have, this could be a real opportunity. And I appreciate you guys thinking outside the box to hopefully make this happen. I really do. Okay,
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
We need going a little quicker.
I second it. Let's.
All those in favor?
Whatever you got, Michael, we'll hear it next month.
Yeah. I don't have
Anything big.
Michael, did you tell them that my seat's gonna be changed?